Chapter 330. The instant he woke up, Zhao Feng realized that he had made so many enemies in just a year's time in the Canopy Great Country. The forces he had offended included the Imperials, the Flooding Lake Lu family, the Tian and Yun families. There was no need to talk about the Imperials. Zhao Feng had kidnapped Empress Qin and damaged the Imperials' reputation. There were even rumors that he had humiliated Empress Qin. The Emperor of the Canopy Great Country looked at Zhao Feng as if he wanted to devour his flesh. Secondly, the Flooding Lake Lu family. Zhao Feng's escape from the marriage caused the Flooding Lake City Lord to break through to the true Lord rank in anger. Furthermore, both the Flooding Lake Lu family and Empress Qin belonged to the Lu family. Zhao Feng had offended the Lu family because of this. Offending the Tian and Yun families was a recent matter. Zhao Feng had almost destroyed the number one genius of the Tian family, Tian Yunji. Not only that, but when he became the Thousand Water Division Master, he almost destroyed the Yun family's branch family and forced them to sign an unfair blood contract. One could imagine how many people and forces one had to offend in order to become famous. However, what surprised Zhao Feng the most was Tian Yunji. If he remembered correctly, Zhao Feng's Water Moon God Peach Fan contained a mental energy attack that crushed the opponent's blade intent. Both blade intent and mental energy attacks were the power of the void. When the two clashed, whoever was stronger and had more resources would emerge victorious. It was obvious that Zhao Feng's source of mental energy was strong and his mental energy attacks were stronger with the help of the Water Moon God Peach Fan. Tian Yunji, I didn't think that you'd be able to form a new blade intent that's even sharper and stronger than before. Zhao Feng's left eye scanned over Tian Yunji and saw through the latter's strength. Tian Yunji's mind went cold for some reason. The instant that icy blue left eye swept over, the saber intent that he had formed after breaking through seemed to be frozen by an invisible coldness, making it hard for him to move. What's going on? Tian Yunji couldn't help but take a deep breath. Compared to a month or two ago, Zhao Feng's current eye bloodline put too much pressure on him. With just a gaze, he almost condensed the embryonic form of his saber intent. This is too terrifying. What happened to Zhao Feng's eye bloodline? Did he hide his strength before? Zhao Feng glanced at him, then closed his eyes and continued to comprehend the contents of the first level of the Ball of Ice Soul Basics. The Ball of Ice Soul contained a deeper application of the spiritual domain, and it brought him to the ancient world of Soul Dao. Before he knew it, Zhao Feng's mastery of psychic secret techniques had reached a whole new level. Ever since he went into hibernation and his left eye mutated, Zhao Feng felt that his God spiritual eye had a qualitative leap, but he didn't know how to dig out its potential. The original secret spirit technique was far from enough. And at this moment, after continuously comprehending the Ball of Ice Soul, Zhao Feng naturally used the hidden power of the God spiritual eye. He even suspected that when he had the God spiritual eye, Azure Eye, he hadn't dug out its true power yet. In the middle of the field, on the high platform, the 10 preliminaries were recognized as the 10 strongest geniuses in the country. They would be able to overlook the competition in the 8 arenas from high above. The 4th-ranked youth had once again dozed off and didn't care about the outside world. This Zhao Feng is so arrogant, Prince Jin's eyes squinted and a cold golden light flashed. When Zhao Feng had woken up, he had greeted him and wanted to test him, but the other didn't even pay attention to him. He was the prince of the Imperials, the number one genius of the country, and had the strongest bloodline. When had he ever received such treatment? Of course. This couldn't all be blamed on Zhao Feng. Firstly, he didn't know Prince Jin, and secondly, Prince Jin wasn't the only one that greeted him. More importantly, Zhao Feng was focused on comprehending the Ball of Ice Soul, and was like a sponge that quickly absorbed water. He had only exchanged a glance with Tian Yunji before falling back into comprehension. At this moment, the duels on the 8 arenas were being carried out in an orderly manner in the capital's important grounds. Apart from the 10 stars, there were also many geniuses that had come to compete for the sacred True Dragon Gathering. Most of the participants were at the half-step True Spirit Realm, and a small amount were at the True Spirit Realm and 7th Sky rank. However, with Prince Jean as the leader, the 10 preliminaries stood at the peak of the great country's younger generation. The following battles didn't enter their eyes. Zhao Feng's action of dozing off was extremely wise. As the battles progressed, shouts and cheers could be heard from outside. Jiang Sanfeng is indeed worthy of being ranked 4th among the 10 stars. He hasn't lost a single time. That Lu Qinxin is also stunning. Not only is she beautiful, her strength is stunning as well. The 10 preliminaries were also discussing with each other. There were only 2 or 3 geniuses that could enter their eyes. Amongst them, Jiang Sanfeng and Lu Qinxin had the fiercest momentum and had both maintained a 10-match winning streak. Everyone was well aware of Jiang Sanfeng's battle prowess and cultivation technique. The ardent sun-blazing flame scripture was unyielding and fierce, defeating all opponents with an unstoppable momentum. Most geniuses that met Jiang Sanfeng would admit defeat. Jiang Sanfeng so strong. I really don't understand why the Iron Blood religion would let a brat take his spot. The Iron Blood religion has a strict hierarchy and Zhao Feng is a chapter leader. Even Jiang Sanfeng would have to bow to him. The geniuses from the various forces discussed this suspicious point. Jiang Sanfeng's battle power had exceeded their expectations and no one was a match for him. Many people were puzzled that such a genius wasn't part of the preliminaries. However, the upper echelon of the Iron Blood religion kept silent and knew the truth. The sparring between Zhao Feng and Jiang Sanfeng had only happened a few days ago and the news hadn't spread yet. Apart from that, Lu Qinxin's performance could be said to be stunning and was a black horse. She wore a snow-white veil, and her expression was tranquil, elegant, and tranquil. She was like a celestial maiden from a painting, and every single move she made carried a melodious and beautiful rhythm. Lu Qinxin's style this time was completely different from when she fought in the flooding lake city. Inheritance of the Tao of music. Such exquisite moves. I can almost hear the call of the wind and the song of the birds. A goddess in white from the Qin Sword Palace closed her eyes with an expression of admiration. This scene shocked the upper echelon of the Qin Sword Palace. Goddess Qin's mastery of the Tao of music is one of the 3 prodigies in the great country and is on par with Empress Qin. Is this junior's mastery of the Tao of music so profound? That's right. Fusing the music Tao's chord sounds and pulse into his martial arts, even his expressions and movements are pleasing to the eye, elegant and noble, without a trace of vulgarity. I feel that this girl's style is the exact opposite of Empress Qin's, but there's a connection between them. There were some knowledgeable people present. Lu Qinxin was calm and elegant. It was as if she was playing a beautiful piece of ancient music, causing people to be intoxicated and happy. Lady Lu, you're the goddess in my heart. Although you lost, you resonated with me. A white-robed young master who had reached the true human rank said reluctantly. Lu Qinxin smiled elegantly and floated away after returning the greeting. During the competition, her eyes would only linger on 2 people. One was Empress Qin and the other was Zhao Feng. Zhao Feng was sleeping and didn't pay attention to her. On the other hand, Empress Qin's smile could topple cities and she would occasionally inspect Lu Qinxin. The gazes of the 2 clashed in the air as if they were having an invisible battle. 2 days later, the top 10 were decided. Amongst them, Lu Qinxin and Jiang Sanfeng had won all their matches, but they didn't face each other. Under normal situations, Qinxin should have a 50 to 60% chance of winning against Jiang Sanfeng. Furthermore, Qinxin has a hidden bloodline as well as killing moves of the Tao of Life and Tao of Qin. The flooding lake city lord nodded his head. However, when his gaze landed on Zhao Feng, his eyebrows furrowed. He had a certain level of understanding towards the Iron Blood religion. The Iron Blood religion valued strength and status. If Xiao Feng's status alone wasn't enough to convince everyone, he wouldn't be able to replace Jiang Sanfeng. Furthermore, the upper echelon's reactions were extremely calm. Could it be that Zhao Feng didn't win against Tian Yunji because of the Water Moon Pirate's underhanded methods? This Jiang Sanfeng was also defeated by him. The Flooding Lake City Lord was half happy and half worried. Although he hated Zhao Feng, he still hoped for such a talented son-in-law in the depths of his heart. However, Zhao Feng had become the chapter leader of the Iron Blood religion and was slowly walking on the opposite side of the Lu Main family. Next, we'll welcome the top 10 and the top 10 stars of the preliminaries. A loud and clear voice resounded throughout the arena. The crowd broke out into chaos. On the high stage, Prince Jin and the other stars of the preliminaries all stood up with smiles on their faces. This was the most crucial moment. However, among the 10 pre-selected candidates, there was a blue-haired youth who was still dozing off in his original position. Everyone else had stood up, but he was the only one sitting. The true mystic rank elder hosting the competition furrowed his eyebrows. He had never seen such a situation before. Soon, the top 10 with Jiang Sanfeng, Lu Qinxin and company standing below the high stage. The 10 of you, each of you has a maximum of 2 chances to challenge. If you fail twice, you'll lose the chance to enter the sacred True Dragon Gathering. The true mystic rank elder said. Understood. Many of the top 10 were excited and nervous. This was the last crucial moment. Challenging the 10 stars of the older generation would not only make them famous, they would also be able to participate in the sacred True Dragon Gathering. Who goes first? The true mystic rank elder said. I'll go first. A white-robed young master walked out with a cold voice. The young master of the Main Bai family, Bai Jiangqing. This young master Bai is a romantic. In this competition, he is infatuated with the beauty of Lu Qinxin's Tao of music. A wave of laughter came from below the stage. Most of them were very friendly. After all, this young master of the Bai family was handsome and talented. Who didn't love beauty? Bai Jiangqing stood below the high stage and scanned Prince Jin, Wang Xiaoguai, Tian Yunji and the other geniuses. As for the first and second place, he had no hope at all. Prince Jin's bloodline was the strongest and he hadn't lost a single time. The second Wang Xiaoguai was a monster who fought crazily with no regard for his life. Even Tian Yunji was suppressed by him. The third Tian Yunji had comprehended the basic form of blade intent and his battle power was extremely strong. The fourth was the sleeping blue-haired youth. His fame was even greater. He had kidnapped the Qin king and was said to be the successor of the Water Moon Pirate. Chapter 331. Bai Jiangqing was at the true human rank and was ranked 6th in the top 10 of the Great Country competition. Such an achievement had undoubtedly trampled on the millions of geniuses in the Great Xia Empire, gathering countless halos and luck on him. However, at this moment, facing the top 10 geniuses of the same generation, his expression was solemn and he didn't dare underestimate them at all. He didn't have the confidence to win against any one of the 10 geniuses on the stage, especially Prince Jin and company. Even if he could win against one of them, it would probably be a tough battle. Bai Jiangqing's eyes scanned around and landed on the 4th spot, the napping, blue-haired youth. You're the 4th. Bai Jiangqing took a deep breath. His eyes were sharp as he made his decision. Choosing Zhao Feng was the result of his careful consideration. There were 2 reasons. Firstly, only Zhao Feng wasn't one of the 10 stars of the Great Country. Although Zhao Feng was famous, most of it was just rumors. It was said that he had relied on the methods of the Water Moon Pirate. This meant that Zhao Feng's true strength might not live up to his name. Secondly, it was because of Lu Qinxin. In the sparring before, Bai Jiangqing had completely fallen for Lu Qinxin. That kind of beauty was pleasing to the eye and didn't have a trace of vulgarity. Coincidentally, Zhao Feng was Lu Qinxin's fiancé, and because he ran away, he was wanted by the flooding lake city. What an unromantic brat. How dare you leave such a perfect girl behind? Wait for me to take out my trump card and defeat you at all costs to win the beauty's favor. At that time, with my identity as the young master of the Bai family, I'll definitely be able to propose to the flooding lake city. Bai Jiangqin was filled with jealousy and hatred towards Zhao Feng, but at the same time, he felt lucky. Lucky that Zhao Feng didn't know how to flirt and left him a chance. What made him angry and jealous was that the other had abandoned such a perfect girl. Bai Jiangqin decided that no matter what price he had to pay, he would defeat Zhao Feng. He took a deep breath and looked to the side. A fairy-like figure dressed in a snow-white veil, with a quiet and elegant face, noble and refined, pleasing to the eye. However, as soon as Bai Jiangqin's words finished, the scene became awkward. "The fourth is you." There was no response. There was no movement. In the fourth seat, Zhao Feng sat on the same spot with his eyes closed, as if he was taking a nap. He had no idea where he was sitting, and he had no idea what was going on outside. Zhao Feng. As one of the top 10, Bai Jiangqin has the qualifications to challenge you. If you don't fight, it's the same as forfeiting. The true mystic rank judge's voice was like thunder. Only when the name Zhao Feng was mentioned did the blue-haired youth slowly open his eyes with a blank expression. Below the high platform, Lu Qinxin, Jiang Sanfeng, and the rest of the top 10 were all present. Among them, Lu Qinxin pursed her lips and smiled. She was like a lotus after the rain, elegant and quiet. Jiang Sanfeng couldn't help but say, "Zhao Feng, come out and fight." Both he and Zhao Feng came from the iron blood religion, and his face turned red. "Despicable brat, how dare you look down on me?" Bai Jiangqin, who had stepped out of the formation, was furious. His handsome face was flushed red, and his fists were clenched tightly. "Oh." Zhao Feng nodded his head in understanding and landed on the ground, leaving a trail of lotuses behind him. This movement skill is indeed the inheritance of the Water Moon Pirate. This pervert dares to compete for the sacred true dragon gathering spot in the capital. Many of the upper echelon present revealed enraged expressions. Some of the older generation experts had even fought with the Water Moon Pirate before and had suffered a loss. The Imperials were filled with killing intent and anger. If it wasn't for the fact that Zhao Feng came from the Iron Blood religion, there would probably be a group of experts flying over to punish the pervert. On the arena, Zhao Feng and Bai Jiangqin faced each other. The former was expressionless and seemed to be thinking. Although he was standing on the arena, part of Zhao Feng's attention was still on the ball of Ice Soul. Now that the first level of the foundation of Ice Soul had barely entered the door, Zhao Feng's comprehension of mental energy had reached a whole new level. Green Flame Azure Sky. Bai Jiangqin's hands crossed as his eyes flashed with a green light and his chi of true spirit started to burn. His entire body shone with a brilliant green light, and there were even green flames that soared to a height of 3 meters. It was a shocking sight. What was even more incredible was that his chi of true spirit had increased dramatically and broke through the barrier of cultivation. Green Flame Azure Sky. The secret arts of the main branch of the Bai family could only be executed with a specific bloodline power. This bloodline secret technique can increase one's connection with the Heaven-Earth Yuan Qi and multiply one's battle power. The spectating experts all over the great country saw some clues. Not good. One needs to be at the late stages of the true human rank in order to use the Green Flame Azure Sky, or else their foundation will be damaged and their bloodline power will be greatly damaged. The expressions of those from the main Bai family changed dramatically. In a short breath, Bai Jiangqin's battle power had risen to Jiang Sanfeng's level. Pa! The green light in Bai Jiangqin's eyes brightened and the green light around him howled as he charged towards Zhao Feng. At this point in time, the green flame covered the area and the terrifying aura of true spirit was enough to make those at the peak true human rank tremble. The green flame and green light was about to engulf the blue-haired youth's figure. Hurry up and counterattack. Jiang Sanfeng and Dai Ye's hearts were pounding. There was no reaction from Zhao Feng's chi of true spirit, as if he didn't plan on fighting back. Bastard, die. Bai Jiangqing had a smug expression as a cold light flashed through his eyes. However, in that instant, Zhao Feng's left eye focused on him for the first time. The deep left eye was like a bottomless pond and a bone-chilling coldness spread out. Sii. Bai Jiangqing's entire body started to tremble. Even his thoughts seemed to be frozen and his movements became dozens of times slower. This coldness didn't exist in the physical dimension but in the mental energy soul. Sii. Bai Jiangqing's eyes were filled with shock as his body started to tremble. It was as if his body had been sealed in ice. In the eyes of the crowd, his actions were like a slow-motion movie. In the end, the emotions in his eyes seemed to be frozen and unchanging. The freezing of his mental energy made him lose control of his body, true force and bloodline. He was like a baby that stumbled forward. Bam! He was kicked out of the arena by a blue-haired figure. Plop! The instant Bai Jiangqing fell to the ground, the coldness in his body only half disappeared. A trace of blood leaked from the corner of his mouth and he could feel the obvious warmth. How is this possible? What dirty method did you use? Bai Jiangqing was speechless. He had used all his strength and bloodline power to use the green flame sky secret technique, but it was as if he had been hit by an evil technique. He couldn't resist at all and was sent flying with a kick. Hua! The crowd broke out into chaos. Most people didn't understand what had happened. The true time to decide victory or defeat was only that half a breath of time. What's going on? Why did Bai Jiangqing become stupid at the critical moment? What evil technique did that brat use? Evil technique? It must be a dirty technique left behind by the water moon pirate, such as the soft fragrance poison, to make the opponent lose the ability to fight. Countless discussions came from the arena, which then turned into condemnation. These condemnations were mostly from the younger generation. The true upper echelon members of the country all had solemn expressions. Zhao Feng didn't bother to explain and returned to his original position, closing his eyes and continuing to comprehend. As expected, the mutated left eye has the element of ice and water, leaning towards coldine. Through the principles of the ball of ice soul, the power of the eye bloodline can freeze and damage the opponent's consciousness. Zhao Feng nodded his head in his heart. I'll call this move Eye of Ice Soul. It's different from the Eye of Illusion from before. From this moment onwards, Zhao Feng's eye bloodline abilities were finally classified by the system. Eye of Ice Soul was an ability that he had unearthed from cultivating the Ball of Ice Soul over the past few days. After the second evolution of the god's spiritual eye, Zhao Feng only had an eye bloodline, but he didn't have the ability to develop it. And the Ball of Ice Soul was the fortune that could change Zhao Feng's fate. Below the arena, Bai Jiangqing's defeat still affected his body on a mental energy level, and his teeth were still chattering. Furthermore, his movements and reactions had become slow. This brat's comprehension and eye bloodline are terrifying. He managed to comprehend the ancient Tao of the soul within the Ball of Ice Soul so quickly. The deputy patriarch of the Iron Blood religion was overjoyed. On the other hand, the upper echelon members of the Imperials, Cloud Race, Bai family, and other forces all had solemn and surprised expressions. With their level, they could obviously see that Zhao Feng's one-move victory wasn't some dirty trick, but a high-level eye bloodline secret technique. However, many of the geniuses present didn't see the truth and scoffed at Zhao Feng. This bastard Zhao Feng is using despicable methods in front of everyone. Bai Jiangqing's defeat was too fake. Did the two discuss this beforehand? Some people even suspected that Bai Jiangqin was just putting on a show to show off his might to Zhao Feng. This disturbance soon passed. Bai Jiangqin didn't dare to continue challenging in a short amount of time and left one chance for the elders of his family to heal. Immediately after, Jiang Sanfeng challenged the 6th ranked of the 10 stars and won in one battle. After all, he was previously ranked 4th among the 10 stars. The other top 10 geniuses all challenged him, but most of them ended in failure. Zhao Feng still had his eyes closed and didn't care about the outside world. Through the practice just now, his understanding of his eye bloodline had increased. The eye of illusion in the past mainly used mental energy illusions to trap the enemy and wear down their mental energy until they were completely exhausted. The most important thing was the word illusion. The Eye of Ice Soul uses the cold element of the eye bloodline to freeze or injure the opponent's mind. It has a certain attack and corrosiveness. Zhao Feng's thoughts started to become clear. This meant that after his first evolution, the Azure Eye should be of the wind element. It was just that at that time, he didn't have the corresponding secret technique. If it was said that he had the Eye of Ice now, then he had the Eye of Wind in the past. Unfortunately, if I had the Ball of Ice Soul earlier, my current achievements would be much higher. Zhao Feng felt slightly regretful, but he also felt lucky. Just as he was wholeheartedly comprehending it, he suddenly smelled a wisp of clear fragrance. Zhao Feng felt it and opened his eyes to find a beautiful girl sitting next to him smiling at him. Lu Qinxin. Zhao Feng's heart jumped. Lu Qinxin had won the challenge and sat in the 5th spot, becoming one of the 10 stars of the great country. Chapter 332. At this point in time, the rankings of the 10 stars were as follows: 1st place, Prince Jin 2nd place, Wang Xiaoguai 3rd place, Tian Yunji 4th place, Zhao Feng 5th place, Lu Qinxin 6th place, Jiang Sanfeng. The rankings of the top 6 were very stable. The ones that were changing were the last few rankings, especially the 9th and 10th place. Zhao Feng's right hand was Tian Yunji and his left hand was Lu Qinxin. Because of Lu Qinxin's arrival, Zhao Feng seemed to feel a bit of pressure and didn't continue to sleep. Lu Qinxin sat next to him and didn't blame him at all. Instead, there was a hint of joy on her face. After escaping from the flooding lake city, the two had an agreement and didn't cancel the marriage. This meant that the two were engaged and would compete on the same stage in this era where geniuses were as common as the clouds. If there were no accidents, the two would step onto the peak stage of the continent and compete in the sacred True Dragon Gathering. This kind of coincidence of fate made the future of life full of brilliance and all kinds of variables. Lu Qinxin's heart was content as she looked at the blue-haired youth in front of her and felt a warmth that she hadn't felt for a long time. On the same stage, Zhao Feng and Lu Qinxin's eyes occasionally met. The former was slightly awkward while the latter had a smile that wasn't a smile, but neither said anything. 1st place Prince Jin squinted his eyes as he scanned over Zhao Feng and Lu Qinxin. His gaze lingered on Lu Qinxin's face and couldn't help but be stunned. This Lu Qinxin's looks, aura and talent are all on the same level as the Empress. Furthermore, she's more suitable as a wife. If I can marry her, I'll be able to receive the support of the Flooding Lake Lu family and even rope in the Lu family and Empress Qin. This will increase my chances of becoming the emperor. Prince Jin's heart couldn't help but beat faster and his slightly chubby face almost started to laugh. The more he thought about it, the more excited he became. Firstly, Lu Qinxin's charisma and aura was completely different from Empress Qin's but was comparable to her. Most importantly, she, who had inherited the Tao of music, wasn't as ambitious as Empress Qin. Secondly, Lu Qinxin had a large force behind her. Before Lu Jiutian reached the True Lord rank, the Flooding Lake Lu family was one of the top forces of the branch families. When the Flooding Lake City Lord reached the True Lord rank, his strength would be comparable to any of the 4 major families. Of course, Prince Jin didn't know that there was an irreconcilable grudge between Empress Qin and Lu Qinqin. But at this time, he had already made up his mind. Zhu Lin. Prince Jin used his spiritual sense to contact a purple-robed youth in the top 10 of the overall competition. "Big brother Jin, what are your orders?" the purple-robed youth said respectfully. The two of them began to communicate via voice transmission. As it turned out, this purple-robed young man was also a genius of the royal family. He possessed the power of the bloodline, and was ranked 4th among the top 10 in the country. His strength was even stronger than that of Bai Jiangqin. "You have 2 chances. Use one of them to challenge Xiao Feng and see if he's strong or weak. If I remember correctly, you have a soul protection jade pendant with you. It has a certain resistance against mental attacks." Prince Jin ordered. "No problem. Even if I can't defeat this thief, I can definitely dig out more secrets from him," the purple-robed Zhu Lin said confidently. If he had to defeat Xiao Feng, his chances of winning wouldn't be high, but forcing the latter to reveal more of his strength shouldn't be hard. Furthermore, he had a rare soul Dao protective item. Zhu Lin stood out and his eyes were as sharp as a sword. "Bastard Xiao Feng, you've inherited the Water Moon Pirate's evil methods. What right do you have to participate in the sacred True Dragon Gathering? Today, I'll Chio." Before he finished speaking, Xiao Feng disappeared from his position. "What's with all the bullshit?" Zhao Feng's ghostly figure appeared on the stage with a flash of lightning. "You." Zhu Lin paused and was enraged as he quickly climbed onto the stage. The two were dozens of yards apart and faced each other. The judge announced the start. Zhu Lin took a deep breath and prepared to receive Zhao Feng's eye bloodline attack. Woo! He crossed his arms and opened his bloodline power. A golden figure rose from his body and a layer of scarlet-yellow lines appeared on his skin. His bones and muscles suddenly became stronger. Imperial bloodline. A wave of discussion came from the stage. Zhao Feng's god's spiritual eye contracted and found that Zhu Lin's body and power had increased greatly. If he originally had 1,000 pounds of strength, then now he had at least 1,600. The increase in body power was even stronger. If he could originally withstand 1,000 pounds of strength, then now he could withstand at least 1,800. This didn't even include the effects of other bloodlines. This meant that Zhu Lin's battle power had doubled. What a powerful bloodline! Xiao Feng was shocked. In terms of battle power, Zhu Lin's imperial bloodline was even stronger than Zhao Feng's. Prince Jin's bloodline was the strongest in the Canopy Great Country. From this, it was hard to estimate the latter's true strength. Of course, this didn't mean that Zhao Feng's bloodline was weaker than the other. This was because some bloodlines didn't mainly increase battle power. For example, Zhao Yufei. Zhao Feng's core was the god's spiritual eye and his bloodline was the byproduct of the god's spiritual eye. Bastard, if you don't make a move now, you won't have another chance. Zhu Lin had a mocking expression. The other had allowed him to activate his bloodline power. How stupid. In his current state, he had a chance of winning even against someone at the late stages of the true human rank. Eye of Ice Soul. Xiao Feng opened his god's spiritual eye and his left eye was like a bottomless pond. See. Zhu Lin shivered as an icy chill seemed to seep into his soul and into his heart. When at the critical moment, the white jade pendant on his waist glowed with a faint white halo. It was translucent and vaguely visible. However, even so, the coldness in Zhu Lin's mind had only weakened by 10 to 20%. On the mental plane, the strange cold power of nothingness quickly spread and corroded him. In less than a breath, his body seemed to freeze. From an outsider's point of view, Zhu Lin seemed to have dementia. His actions and expression were slow and his body was trembling. His eyes were filled with fear and helplessness. Bam! Xiao Feng slowly walked over and kicked. Everyone was dumbstruck. Some were shocked, and some cried out in alarm. They watched helplessly as Zhu Lin was kicked out of the arena. Before the judge's announcement, Zhao Feng disappeared from the arena and returned to the fourth position. Wah! Zhu Lin spat out a mouthful of blood on the ground. His thoughts and actions were still stiff and slow. His face was full of shock. How is this possible? I can't even take one look from him. Hua! The crowd broke into silence. Even with Zhu Lin's strength and bloodline power, he couldn't fight back at all. Prince Jin's expression was solemn. Zhu Lin's challenge increased Zhao Feng's reputation. Of the 10 rising stars, Zhao Feng and Tian Yunji had both defeated their opponents in one move. The difference was, the heavenly cloud Ganoderma gave birth to a new, embryonic form of saber intent. It was stronger and more resilient than before. With an absolutely tyrannical attack, it instantly killed its opponent. On the other hand, Zhao Feng's opponent couldn't fight back at all. As for Prince Jin and Wang Xiaoguai, who were ranked first and second, no one dared to challenge them. The reason why Tian Yunji was challenged was because one of the geniuses was hoping to get lucky, thinking that Tian Yunji's saber intent was gone and that his combat prowess was greatly reduced, so he could take advantage of the situation. The battles for the top 10 gradually came to an end. The top 10 of the preliminaries had finally been decided. The top 6 hadn't changed: Prince Jin, Wang Xiaoguai, Tian Yunji, Zhao Feng, Lu Qinxin and Jiang Sanfeng. Of the last 4, 3 were new faces. What was worth mentioning was that Zhu Lin and Bai Jiangqing, who had challenged Zhao Feng, had both failed. After being attacked by Zhao Feng's Eye of Ice Soul, their mental energy had been frozen by the power of Ice Soul. Although they had pills and doctors, they couldn't be cured in a short amount of time. The side effect was that their reactions were slower than normal and they obviously had no chance of getting a spot for the sacred True Dragon Gathering. Zhu Lin and Bai Jiangqing were filled with regret and unwillingness. The two had held back some of their strength in the finals and originally had the chance to get a spot for the sacred True Dragon Gathering, but because they had challenged Zhao Feng, they had lost this chance. Zhu Lin, I'll get justice for you when I have the chance. Prince Jin reassured Zhu Lin. Prince Jin didn't expect this situation either. Who would have thought that Zhao Feng's Eye of Ice Soul would have such an effect? The coldness eroded the mental energy and left a wound on the mental energy level. The biggest difference between the Eye of Ice Soul and the Eye of Illusion was that the former was a mental energy attack while the latter was a mental energy illusion. If the Eye of Ice Soul is strong enough, it can freeze the opponent's mental energy consciousness and make them fall into an eternal slumber. Zhao Feng had used the Eye of Ice Soul twice and felt its corrosiveness. At this point in time, the 10 spots for the sacred True Dragon Gathering had been decided in the Canopy Great Country. Zhao Feng closed his eyes and focused on comprehending. He didn't know that the battle hadn't ended yet. At this time, the Canopy Great Country Emperor slowly stood up and said in a low tone, according to the past, the Canopy Great Country will choose a leader from the 10 people participating in the sacred True Dragon Gathering. This leader must have the strongest strength and stand at the peak of this generation. The leader represented the strongest genius of the Canopy Great Country. Once they left the Great Country, the leader represented the entire Canopy Great Country. Simply put, the next step was to fight for the number 1 spot in the Great Country. The number 1 spot will be Prince Jin, Zhu Jinpeng. If anyone doesn't agree, they can challenge him. The Canopy Great Country Emperor smiled brightly. Prince Jin was his son with the strongest bloodline and the Emperor was very confident in his strength. In terms of cultivation, Prince Jin was at the peak true human rank and was stronger than any of the geniuses present. In terms of bloodline, Prince Jin was also recognized as the strongest in the Great Country. However, as soon as the Canopy Great Country Emperor's words finished, Wang Xiaoguai and Tian Yunji, who were ranked second, were filled with battle intent. He. The #1 spot in the great country will belong to me. Wang Xiaoguai held a gold and silver stick, and in a blur, he landed on the stage and jumped up and down. Everyone present could not help but be astonished. However, no one underestimated Wang Xiaoguai's strength. This time, there were only him and Prince Jin in the competition. From the beginning to the end, no one dared to challenge him. Prince Jin let out a long laugh as he landed on the stage like a golden rock. Pang! The stage lightly shook. It was hard to imagine Prince Jin's physical strength. Dong! Wang Xiaoguai didn't show any weakness and slammed his gold and silver stick down on the stage. His muscles didn't have the slightest hint of flesh and were like metal or stone. Each of his movements could shake mountains and crush normal true human rank cultivators. Ancient bloodline. Zhao Feng was woken up and the faint blue blood in his body trembled slightly as if it was being pressured. Chapter 333. Wang Xiaoguai's hair was messy and his eyes flashed with a purple-gold light. As his bloodline power was activated, the entire arena started to shake. The terrifying power could even kill a late-stage true human rank. What a powerful bloodline talent! The audience burst into an uproar. Even Zhao Feng was woken up and his bloodline power felt the opponent's ancient bloodline aura and felt slightly pressured. Zhao Feng had rarely seen such a situation. There were only two possibilities. One was that Wang Xiaoguai's bloodline grade was extremely high and the other was that his bloodline had awakened to its ancestor. For example, one bloodline had awakened to 10% while the other had only awakened to 1%. Ha ha ha. This is the surprise that the Wind Cloud sect has brought to the world. Wang Xiaoguai's bloodline was awakened to its ancestor half a year ago and its power can't be compared to before. Prince Jin's position as the strongest bloodline in the Canopy Great Country won't be stable now. The upper echelon of the Wind Cloud sect had smug expressions. Congratulations to the Wind Cloud sect for having a bloodline genius. The deputy religion leader smiled faintly and congratulated the Wind Cloud sect leader. In the Canopy Great Country, the Wind Cloud sect was the ally of the Iron Blood religion. This Wang Xiaoguai comes from the Wind Cloud sect and has a weird personality. He's been a monster since he was young. After his bloodline awakened, he was nurtured by the Wind Cloud sect. Seeing Zhao Feng's curiosity, Tian Yunji explained. Zhao Feng was slightly surprised. Didn't this Tian Yunji hold a grudge? That day, Zhao Feng's water moon god Peach Fan had almost destroyed the other's future. Of all the strong opponents I've met in my life, there are two who are worthy of my respect and gratitude. One of them allowed me to comprehend and activate Saber intent. The other person is you, who allowed me to rise from the ashes, giving me a new life. Tian Yunji said with a faint smile. Although his blade intent wasn't very strong, Zhao Feng felt that it had reached a higher level than before. No wonder Tian Yunji also wanted to challenge Prince Jin. Wang Xiaoguai. Your bloodline has been strengthened, but it is still no match for my royal bloodline. Prince Jin's voice was deep as he crossed his arms, his brown hair dancing in the wind. Buzz. His entire body's bones, flesh, and blood, especially his skin, became thicker, and a layer of golden veins appeared. In the blink of an eye, Prince Jin's body grew a few feet taller. His flesh and skin thickened greatly, making him look even more muscular. Not only that. Behind him, there was also a huge, sturdy shadow that was about 3 meters long. Zhao Feng's god's spiritual eye contracted and found that the shape of the figure was similar to a common animal. This is the rare, golden boar bloodline of the Canopy Great Imperial family. With the golden boar bloodline, he can withstand the joint attacks of several people of the same level. Prince Jin's golden boar bloodline has been activated to a high degree, and he has a complete set of bloodline secret arts. Bang! 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 The two strength-type geniuses activated their bloodline power. Their footsteps caused the arena to tremble slightly. Earth Fiend Wind Cloud Staff. Wang Xiaoguai gave a weird cry as he swung his gold and silver rod. Purple and azure wind whistled as it swept everything within 100 yards. Its powerful might covered the entire stage. Golden Destruction Demon Slaughtering Palm. Prince Jin roared as the golden veins on his palm expanded to the size of a fan. With a forceful slap, an enormous golden palm leapt towards Wang Xiaoguai. Boom! Boom! The two mountain-shaking powers clashed together and the bloodline power and chi of true spirit intertwined and broke through the barrier of cultivation. It was extremely hard for one's power to surpass their own cultivation. However, it wasn't impossible. The most common way was to use secret arts or burn their chi of true spirit, but the price was high. Furthermore, if one used a powerful weapon, it would expend a lot of energy and be hard to control. Bloodline power was the one with the least side effects. Therefore, bloodline geniuses were blessed by the heavens and could break through the barrier of cultivation. Prince Jin and Wang Xiaoguai in front of them were perfect examples. As the two fought, holes were left on the arena. Some of the previous competitors couldn't even damage the arena in the slightest. It felt like two giants were fighting, causing the stage to shake from time to time. These two monsters. The geniuses from all over the country felt their hearts tremble as they saw this battle. The top 10 competitors couldn't help but feel lucky that they didn't challenge Prince Jin and Wang Xiaoguai before. Those below the peak true human rank would either be slapped flat or smashed to death by a stick. Boom! After fighting for a long time, the stage the two were on started to crack and dust rose. In terms of bloodline power, the two are roughly the same. Wang Xiaoguai's bloodline grade is high while Prince Jin's bloodline is high and he has a secret art to match it. Zhao Feng's god spiritual eye inspected the two. At a certain moment, Zhao Feng opened his god spiritual eye and saw how the two circulated their bloodline power and chi of true spirit. In the end, he found that the two both had their own ways of using their bloodline power. Wang Xiaoguai was still a bit inexperienced. However, Prince Jin definitely had a complete system. AI. Zhao Feng slapped his forehead. Only after observing Prince Jin and Wang Xiaoguai's usage of bloodline power did he realize how crude his usage of bloodline power was. It wasn't crude. Zhao Feng didn't even know how to use it and only used it crudely without any technique. Of course, this couldn't be blamed on Zhao Feng. His bloodline power was acquired and was a byproduct of the god's spiritual eye merging into his body. Therefore, he didn't have a proper way of using his bloodline power, or did he have a system to awaken it. Compared to him, Prince Jin's bloodline power had a complete system and secret art. After all, the bloodline of the Imperials was passed down from generation to generation and the system was perfect. And it's not too late to make up for it. Zhao Feng's god's spiritual eye was fully opened as he observed how the two used their bloodline power. Prince Jin's usage was extremely mature. Wang Xiaoguai's bloodline might be rare and his system wasn't complete. However, he was still much stronger than Zhao Feng. Firstly, Wang Xiaoguai's bloodline power was innate and after a long time, his body would instinctively adapt and use it. Secondly, after his bloodline awakened, he was nurtured by the Wind Cloud sect and was taught by experts. On the other hand, Zhao Feng came from a faraway place and his bloodline was rare. As he observed, Zhao Feng's god's spiritual eye's strong learning and analysis abilities were used and he saw some things. Prince Jin and Wang Xiaoguai's bloodline power is the type that increases strength and the element isn't obvious. However, there are some bloodline powers that increase speed, explosiveness and even attributes. As Zhao Feng analyzed and comprehended, he remembered some bloodline powers he had seen before. Before, Bai Jiangqing's bloodline power was mainly based on the element to activate the powerful green flame. Then what about Zhao Feng himself? The core of my bloodline power is still the god's spiritual eye. It was green before but now it's faint blue. Then my bloodline power must be leaning towards the ice element. Zhao Feng closed his eyes and started to comprehend. In the depths of his body, the faint blue blood flowed in a special way and merged with his flesh, bones and qi of true spirit. Zhao Feng's method of usage came from Prince Jin and Wang Xiaoguai. Prince Jin's system was more complete and Wang Xiaoguai also had an ancient bloodline, which was similar to Zhao Feng's. When the faint blue blood in Zhao Feng's body merged with the qi of true spirit near his source of true spirit and merged into his flesh and bones. Instantly, within Zhao Feng's body, balls of azure and blue air started to crackle with electricity and coldness. So simple. Looks like paper really is separated by mountains. Zhao Feng was overjoyed. The bloodline bottleneck that had troubled him for many years had been broken through. As he familiarized himself with it, the faint blue blood flowed to every corner of his body. Every time he used it, Zhao Feng's bloodline power would become purer and thicker. Zhao Feng soon completed a simple system. With the god's spiritual eye as the core, his bloodline power circulated endlessly through his flesh and bones. Every time he circulated it, he felt the bloodline power in his body become stronger. This was like a person with limitless strength finally finding a way to use it. This aura, Lu Qinxin and Tian Yunji beside him felt the faint bloodline aura from Zhao Feng's body and their own bloodlines trembled uneasily. Tian Yunji was the descendant of two bloodlines and his bloodline was obviously strong. Lu Qinxin's bloodline was even more mysterious and unique. Time continued to pass. On the arena, Prince Jin and Wang Xiaoguai fought fiercely, as if the mountains were collapsing and the earth was cracking. As for Zhao Feng, he entered a certain state. Faint blue ripples would occasionally appear on his body, and the coldness would pierce into his bones. An hour later. The first step is complete. Zhao Feng let out a long breath and slowly retracted his bloodline power. At this time, his bloodline power was more than twice as strong as before. This was like a piece of jade that had been carved and released a flawless light. They're still fighting. Zhao Feng opened his eyes in surprise. The two of them had been fighting for close to an hour. Crack boom, suddenly, a loud sound came from the arena and the arena broke into pieces, causing dust to rise. Prince Jin and Wang Xiaoguai's battle power had reached its peak and they unleashed an earth-shattering attack. Boom! Boom! Two figures, one on the left and one on the right, flew out. A trace of blood leaked from the corner of Prince Jin's mouth and Wang Xiaoguai spat out a mouthful of blood in midair. Zhao Feng's god's spiritual eye quickly analyzed. In terms of battle power, the two were evenly matched. In terms of offense, Wang Xiaoguai was slightly stronger. However, Prince Jin's Golden Boar bloodline had extremely strong defense and was said to be able to face the combined attacks of several people of the same cultivation. Therefore, his injuries were slightly lighter. Not good. At this point in time, chaos ensued. As the two retreated, they brought with them a berserk gust of wind that was no weaker than a single attack from the two. Those under the true mystic rank would find it hard to survive this move. This was especially so for Prince Jin. The direction he retreated towards was where the 10 stars were. Good chance. Kill Zhao Feng while he's retreating. Prince Jin purposely didn't stop his retreat and charged towards Zhao Feng with a wave of air and the figure of a golden pig. Not good. Lu Qinxin, Tian Yunji and company's expressions changed as they were caught off guard. However, how could Prince Jin's movements escape Zhao Feng's god's spiritual eye? Fuck off. Zhao Feng roared as he circulated his bloodline power in a special way and thrust it forward. Pa! When the instant this palm was thrust out, a faint blue figure appeared behind Zhao Feng's back as if it had come from the ancient times. Whoosh! That palm energy erupted, green lightning and thunder roared. There was also a ball of icy light that was accompanied by a bone-chilling illusion. It roared and wreaked havoc. With a ping sound, it struck Prince Jean. Chapter 334. Pa, Zhao Feng thrust out his palm and an icy wind howled in his ears. His palm contained an icy figure that chilled one to the bone. Beside him, Tian Yunji and Lu Qinqing stared at Zhao Feng's back in shock. At the same time Zhao Feng circulated his bloodline power, a blurry ice-blue figure appeared behind him, as if it was an ancient god that had come from the ancient times. Prince Jin's speed had reached the extreme as he took Zhao Feng's attack head-on. Boom! Arcs of lightning shot out in all directions. The icy figure roared and exploded, producing a huge might that engulfed Prince Jin. Wah! Prince Jin had just spat out a mouthful of blood which froze at the corner of his mouth. Even with his terrifying body, he felt a bone-chilling coldness spread throughout his body and he couldn't help but shiver. Damn it! Prince Jin's injuries worsened and all of his blood seemed to freeze. Even his bloodline and chi of true spirit showed signs of freezing. It was extremely strenuous to circulate them. In everyone's eyes, Prince Jin's body was covered in a layer of ice and his body was stiff and clumsy. Zhao Feng, why did you ambush me? Prince Jin roared in anger as he secretly circulated his bloodline and chi of true spirit to dissolve the terrifying coldness that enveloped his body. Shwa! The blue-haired youth flashed next to Prince Jin and kicked out without saying anything. Bam! Prince Jin was kicked out of the high stage and his bulky figure flew out dozens of yards. Plop! The instant Prince Jin landed on the ground, he spat out another mouthful of blood. No one knew if it was because of anger or his injuries. The crowd, the experts and geniuses from all over the country, stared with their mouths open wide in astonishment. This brat has such a pure ancient bloodline and seems to be slightly stronger than Prince Jin. His bloodline power is comparable to Prince Jin and Wang Xiaoguai, and he even has the mysterious ice element. What kind of ancient bloodline does the illusory figure behind him represent? Could it be a bloodline from the 10,000 ancient races? But that's impossible. The pinnacle experts from all over the country were discussing and speculating. Through a secret art, I was able to unlock the power of my bloodline, and my prowess has been amplified by more than a single level. Furthermore, my bloodline attacks are infused with the frost attribute as well. Zhao Feng sat back down and nodded to himself. That palm just then could threaten those at the true mystic rank and normal true human rank cultivators would be turned to ice with one palm. If it was the fan-flying bandit from before, he probably wouldn't even have the chance to escape. Bloodline geniuses were worthy of being favored by the heavens. Of course, Prince Jin's golden boar bloodline gave him a strong defense and thick skin that exceeded Zhao Feng's expectations. The other party had completely withstood his palm strike. Even though he was injured and eroded by the power of ice, he did not suffer any fatal injuries. As expected of the most powerful bloodline in a great country. This was after Prince Jin had fought a huge battle and used up most of his true chi and bloodline. Bastard Zhao Feng. Sneak attack from the back, despicable and shameless. What kind of hero are you? If you have the ability, let's fight fair and square. Prince Jin barely managed to stand up from the ground and his face was full of hatred and anger. He originally wanted to kill Zhao Feng with this chance but didn't expect the latter to react so quickly and explode with his bloodline power. Hehe, do you still dare to fight me now? A mocking smile appeared on Zhao Feng's face. You. Prince Jin was speechless as he stomped around with an ugly expression. In his current state, he had used up a lot of his bloodline and chi of true spirit. How would he have the confidence to fight against the unfathomable Zhao Feng? Zhao Feng's bloodline power attack just then had stunned Prince Jin for a long time. That palm strike just now was shockingly powerful. It had already broken through his bloodline defense. The most important thing was that the power of ice in his bloodline almost froze his blood and his chi of true spirit and bloodline power were blocked. If Zhao Feng didn't just use one palm, but more than 10, Prince Jean couldn't imagine the result. Shameless bastard. This prince won't fall for your tricks. I'll fight you after I recover. Prince Jean roared as he lost all his face. If he tried to be a hero and challenged Zhao Feng in this state, he would lose more than he would win. This bastard Zhao Feng has such a powerful bloodline. Even Prince Jean might not be his match at his peak. Jean's bloodline specializes in strength and defense, not speed. Once they fight, Zhao Feng will definitely counter him. The upper echelon of the Imperials communicated with each other. Prince Jean is indeed not his match unless he disregards the price and uses a forbidden secret technique. Empress Qin sighed as she looked at Zhao Feng with a solemn gaze. Zhao Feng's forte was speed, and the ice element in his bloodline power could restrict the opponent's movement and speed. Once they fought, Prince Jean might not even be able to fight back. Ha ha ha. He doesn't dare to fight you, but I do. An excited and presumptuous laughter came from the other end of the collapsed stage. The person who spoke was Wang Xiaoguai. Although Wang Xiaoguai was injured, he fought with no regard for his life. Furthermore, his ancient bloodline was extremely unique. The more injured he was, the stronger his battle power would be. Therefore, very few people were willing to fight Wang Xiaoguai head-on. Even Tian Yunji was slightly weaker than him before the destruction and reconstruction. Only Prince Jean could fight Wang Xiaoguai head-on with his monstrous defense after activating the Golden Boar bloodline. This Wang Xiaoguai. Zhao Feng's eyebrows furrowed, but he didn't move. The other's bloodline was indeed unique. The more injured he was, the stronger his battle power would be. Blue hair, you seem to be stronger than Prince Jean. Come out and fight. Wang Xiaoguai jumped up and down as he shouted in the air above the arena. Zhao Feng bastard. Come out and fight. Zhao Feng bastard only knows how to sneak attack. Come out and fight fairly if you have the skills. Hee hee, this bastard just ambushed Prince Jean. Wasn't he very strong? Now he's a turtle hiding in its shell. The geniuses all condemned him. The target of their condemnation was a 17-year-old youth who was already famous across the country. Obtaining the Water Moon Treasury. Blackmailing Empress Qin. The youngest chapter leader of the Iron Blood religion. Sweeping across the Thousand Water River. And now, he seemed to be on the verge of becoming the strongest in the country. Such achievements at such a young age, such fame and glory made many geniuses jealous. However, Zhao Feng sat in his original position and closed his eyes, unmoving. He was trying to comprehend the circulation method of the bloodline mystic art and try to perfect it to form his own unique system. Indeed, Zhao Feng's God's spiritual eyes learning ability was extremely strong, and it was easy for him to copy some simple techniques and moves. However, other people's things were still other people's and might not be suitable for him. Blue hair brat. Even if you don't want to fight, you still have to fight. Wang Xiaoguai laughed as he waved his gold and silver rod and leapt towards Zhao Feng. The judges and enforcers of the Imperials purposely didn't stop him and had gloating smiles on their faces. Xiao Quan. Don't cause trouble. Zhao Feng comes from the Iron Blood religion and is our Wind Cloud sect's ally. The expression of the Wind Cloud sect master changed slightly and he immediately stopped him. However, at this moment, Wang Xiaoguai had gone crazy and wouldn't listen to advice. He was arrogant and wouldn't listen to his masters. Eye of illusion. Zhao Feng's God's spiritual eye suddenly opened. The faint blue left eye seemed to extend into a cold pond that was so deep that the bottom couldn't be seen, and it became deeper and deeper. Facing such a monstrous opponent, Zhao Feng didn't want to face him head-on. That would be a waste of effort. Shua. Wang Xiaoguai's consciousness went cold and the coldness spread into his mind. Half a breath, 1.5 breaths, plop. Wang Xiaoguai half knelt on the ground as cold sweat dripped from his body. He gritted his teeth and stared at Zhao Feng in fear and shock. You in the mental energy illusion prison, he had been tortured by Zhao Feng for an entire day and night. Zhao Feng had to admit that the opponent's will was strong. Wang Xiaoguai specialized in body strengthening and his will was monstrous. However, it wasn't enough against Zhao Feng, who specialized in mental energy and had stepped into the ancient Tao of Ice. Sii. The spectators and the geniuses who were competing for the spots inhaled deeply in astonishment. The scene in front of them was too shocking. Zhao Feng had instantly killed Wang Xiaoguai. Even Prince Jin, who had returned to his seat, his expression froze, the anger and dissatisfaction in his heart dissipating. Of course. There was a reason why Zhao Feng didn't use the Eye of Ice Soul and instead used the Eye of Illusion. The Eye of Ice Soul had a strong corrosive effect on the mind and could make the opponent fall into a state of eternal damnation. On the other hand, the Eye of Illusion was more gentle. After all, it was a mental energy technique and its main purpose was to waste the opponent's mental energy until the target was exhausted or fell asleep. Wang Xiaoguai came from the Wind Cloud sect and was in the same alliance as the Iron Blood religion. Zhao Feng obviously held back. After defeating Wang Xiaoguai in one eye, Zhao Feng closed his eyes again. When he attacked just then, he didn't even get up. Where did this brat's eye bloodline come from? Only those families with eye bloodlines on the continent would have such a strong eye power. The upper echelon of the great country had wary expressions as their eyes twinkled. Zhao Feng's display of strength and eye bloodline seemed to suppress all the geniuses in the great country. Don't overestimate him. Wang Xiaoguai's bloodline and skill both lean toward strength and body. His cultivation isn't even at the peak true human rank, so it's reasonable for him to be countered by this brat's mental energy technique. An elder from the Imperials said. As for Prince Jin's defeat, it's because he was injured in the battle and he was ambushed by that bastard. If Prince Jin was at his peak state, he would have a 60% chance of winning with his peak true human rank cultivation and a soul Dao item. As soon as this argument was made, some people agreed with it. Guests, what happened just then was just an accident. However, chapter leader Zhao's sneak attack wasn't honorable. The judge from the Imperials smiled and bowed. The upper echelon of the Iron Blood religion was instantly dissatisfied. Those with eyes could see that Prince Jin had purposely charged towards Zhao Feng. Zhao Feng didn't care about this and closed his eyes, not caring about the outside world. Prince Jin won by a bit in the battle between Prince Jin and Wang Xiaoguai. If no one continues to challenge him, Prince Jin will be the leader of the Canopy Great Country in the sacred True Dragon Gathering. The old judge stroked his beard and chuckled. The crowd was silent. Wang Xiaoguai was exhausted and didn't have the strength to fight. Tian Yunji suddenly didn't have the mood to challenge and Lu Qinxin was calm. Looks like no one has any objections. Prince Jin is the #1 star of the great country. The Imperials were full of smiles. Chapter 335. Finally, because no one challenged him, Prince Jin became the leader of the great country's sacred True Dragon Gathering. Prince Jin broke out in cold sweat and rejoiced in his heart. The competition and pressure this time was too great. The geniuses were all more monstrous than the last. From the second to the fourth, everyone could shake Prince Jin's position. Wang Xiaoguai, who was ranked second, was only slightly weaker. If he performed better, the situation might be different. Third place Tian Yunji's blade intent had been broken and his battle power was immeasurable. However, second and third place were both stunned by Zhao Feng's strength. Tian Yunji originally wanted to challenge Prince Jin, but after seeing Zhao Feng's strength, he instantly lost the mood. In the eyes of the upper echelons of the 8 forces, Zhao Feng's strength very likely surpassed Prince Jin. In name, Prince Jin was the #1 star. However, in many people's eyes, Zhao Feng was #1. However, Zhao Feng didn't seem to be interested in being #1 and continued to comprehend with his eyes closed. The ball of ice soul led him into a vast world of soul Dao. There were endless knowledge and mysteries that he needed to comprehend. The bloodline's secret technique allowed Zhao Feng to complete his bloodline system. This was just the beginning. The sacred true dragon gathering was only a few months away and Zhao Feng grasped every second. The gathering soon came to an end. The 8 forces that had gathered in the arena dispersed. Zhao Feng left a small part of his attention outside and most of it was on comprehension. Blood-hair-colored Timo nodded his head and ordered everyone not to disturb Zhao Feng. The journey back to the main headquarters of the Iron Blood religion was silent. The Iron Blood religion Great Hall. Timo smiled, there are a total of 10 spots this time and the Iron Blood religion has taken 2. Not bad. The faces of the Iron Blood religion's upper echelon were also flushed red, feeling a sense of satisfaction. The large number of spots was only one of the reasons. Many upper echelons looked at Zhao Feng with kindness. This blue-haired youth still had his eyes closed, but no one would think that he was arrogant. During the competition for the slots, Zhao Feng had sent Prince Jin flying with a palm and a kick. He had also instantly killed Wang Xiaoguai. Just thinking about it made people excited. Although Zhao Feng did not win first place, the 2 geniuses who were ranked first and second were shocked by him. At least in everyone's eyes, Zhao Feng was the #1 rising star of the country. The fight for the great country spot is just a small stage. The true challenge is the sacred true dragon gathering. The birth of 100 true dragon geniuses may change the fate of the continent and lead this era. Timo's eyes were filled with hope. He had witnessed dozens of sacred true dragon gatherings. However, this era was different. Peerless geniuses were being born like mushrooms after the rain, far surpassing the past dozens of eras. Otherwise, the chances of the heavenly fortune inheritance connecting with the continent would not be so high. At this moment, Zhao Feng also opened his eyes and felt that this era was vast. It was unfortunate, but it was also fortunate. The Iron Blood religion will send out Zhao Feng, Jiang Sanfeng, Dai Yi and Dong Shui to participate in the sacred true dragon gathering. Timo said. How did it become 4? Zhao Feng was puzzled. It's like this. The Iron Blood religion is a half-star force and at its peak was close to 1 star, comparable to the 10 great clans. Therefore, the Iron Blood religion already had 2 spots. In the entire Canopy Great Country, only the Imperials, Iron Blood religion, Qin Sword Palace and a few other forces have this honor. The 4 great families are still a bit lacking. One of the branch leaders beside him explained. Zhao Feng understood. In terms of strength, the Iron Blood religion was even stronger than some strong countries. If a strong country could have 2 spots, the Iron Blood religion obviously wouldn't lose out. If a country's rank was high enough, there would be spots. At the same time, forces like clans and families could also have spots if their rank was high enough. The ranking was based on the ancient star rank of the clans. Half-star forces would have 2 spots. For example, the Iron Blood religion. 1-star forces would have 10 spots. For example, the Heavenly Yuan clan of the northern continent. 1-star forces have at least an origin core realm sovereign as well as many other requirements. It looks like each of the 10 great clans has an origin core realm sovereign. Zhao Feng understood. In half a month, the 4 of you will head to the Northern Star Stand and use the Northern Star teleportation array to reach the Middle Continent Sacred Zone. At that time, the peak geniuses of the 3 great countries, strong countries and sects including the Heavenly Yuan clan will all gather there. Timo explained the route. The Northern Star Stand would be the gathering point of the entire northern continent. The Azure Flower continent was split into north, east, west, south etc. At the center of each region would be a star stand that reached the Middle Continent Sacred Zone. Of course, not everyone could use the star platform as they pleased. After understanding the route, Zhao Feng returned to his residence and immediately went into seclusion. Occasionally, Jiang Sanfeng, Dai Yi, and Dong Shui would spar and communicate with each other. However, none of them went to look for Zhao Feng. Zhao Feng was obviously not on the same level as the three of them. Even Jiang Sanfeng could only look at him from afar. Within the secret hall, Zhao Feng sat cross-legged with his eyes closed. Within the dimension of his left eye, he was continuously practicing his bloodline technique. His bloodline technique was copied from Prince Jin and company and was slightly modified before using it on himself. At the moment, this bloodline's secret art was still a little rough and imperfect. My bloodline is very unique and uses the God's spiritual eye as the core. I can only use other bloodline techniques and slowly explore them myself. Zhao Feng sighed in his heart. As long as Zhao Feng asked, the Iron Blood religion would provide him with many bloodline techniques. However, the path of his bloodline depended on himself more than anything else. Several days later, Zhao Feng used many secret bloodline techniques as a reference to perfect and improve his own. With a thought, Zhao Feng's bloodline power turned into a dozen or so lines that circulated within his body. As if they had their own intelligence, they didn't clash with each other. Open! Zhao Feng lightly exclaimed, and the dozen or so lines split into hundreds of lines. Some merged into his chi of true spirit while others stayed on the surface of his body. Instantly, a layer of faint blue ice appeared on his body and an indistinct faint blue figure could be seen behind him. Zhao Feng understood that the faint blue figure was an incomplete form of his bloodline ancestor. If the bloodline concentration was too low, it would only be one of the tens of thousands of abilities of the ancestor. In order to display the complete form of the ancestor, the bloodline had to reach at least half of the ancestor's bloodline. Who with a thought, Zhao Feng's bloodline power quickly disappeared into his body. At this point in time, his bloodline techniques were stronger than when he was at the competition. His proficiency and control had greatly increased. After stabilizing his bloodline techniques, Zhao Feng once again entered the ancient world of the soul within the ball of ice soul. The ancient Tao of the soul was a large system and mental energy techniques were only a small and shallow branch of it. The Tao of the soul came from a deeper level of soul techniques. The power of mental energy also came from the core of the soul. The ball of ice soul contained some incomplete knowledge of the ancient Tao of the soul, and most of it was the Tao of the ice soul. The ice soul focused on the element of ice and water. This Tao of the ice soul is extremely compatible with my God's spiritual eye. It's easier to comprehend and cultivate it. Zhao Feng nodded his head in his heart. The only regret was that the information in the ball of ice soul was incomplete, causing the system to be incomplete. However, even so, Zhao Feng felt lucky. If he didn't obtain the ball of ice soul, he wouldn't be able to dig out the potential of his eye bloodline. Under that situation, he would probably only be able to reach the top 50. However, with the ball of ice soul, his hopes increased greatly and he could reach the top 20. In the blink of an eye, more than a dozen days had passed. Zhao Feng had comprehended more than half of the first level of the ball of ice soul, the basics of ice soul. The second level of the ice soul was extremely profound and hard to comprehend. However, as his comprehension of the Tao of the soul deepened, Zhao Feng's mental energy level rose by leaps and bounds. In the dimension of his left eye, the faint blue freezing pond extended to 9 feet. Once it reached 10 feet, Zhao Feng's mental energy level would be comparable to the true mystic rank. Probably no one under the true mystic rank can block one glance from me. Even normal true mystic ranks might fall for it. Zhao Feng was confident. His mental energy level had reached the peak true human rank. However, his source of mental energy was several times stronger than others and there were still parts that he couldn't use. With the God's spiritual eye, normal true mystic rank experts that didn't have strong mental energy or were found by Zhao Feng might be tricked. On this day, Zhao Feng finally came out of seclusion. There were only 2 days left until they left. He remembered another matter, and that was the task he had given to Taigon Master. Chapter Leader, this is the weapon Taigon Master forged for you. Dai Yi took out a black metal box. As Zhao Feng opened the metal box, he felt a coldness seep out. The instant the metal box was opened, an azure and blue light intertwined. Zhao Feng took out a crystalline blue bow. Its shape was the same as the Luoho bow, but it was a size bigger. The bowstring of the bow glowed with lightning and resonated with Zhao Feng's qi of true spirit. Qio! Qio! 3 dark silver arrows flew back to their positions. The bow's ice element is compatible with my bloodline. The bow's lightning element is compatible with my lightning inheritance. These 3 arrows are sharp and are good at penetrating and can conduct energy. Zhao Feng's eyes scanned and concluded. The new Luoho bow and arrows were both close to the middle tier of the spiritual grade. This made Zhao Feng nod his head in praise. Normal true human rank experts used low-tier spiritual grade weapons. If they used middle-tier spiritual grade weapons, they would expend a lot of energy. Only those at the true mystic rank could unleash the full power of middle-tier spiritual grade weapons. The Water Moon God Peach Fan and Yin Shadow Cloak were special and belonged to the inheritance category. When used with a unique skill or bloodline power, they could unleash their full power. There was another point. The new Luoho bow and Luoho arrows were made up of both. Once used, it was like using 2 spiritual grade weapons at the same time, and the consumption was terrifying. The difference was that the bow and arrows were both close to the middle tier spiritual grade, but not yet. The combination of the 2 should surpass normal middle tier spiritual grade weapons. It won't fall behind before reaching the true lord rank. Zhao Feng lightly touched the Luoho bow and a blue light appeared on its surface. The compatibility wasn't much lower than before. At this point, Zhao Feng's weapons had been perfected. Chapter 336. There was still 2 days left until they left. The 4 geniuses of the Iron Blood religion had all made their preparations. Jiang Sanfeng and company saw Zhao Feng come out of seclusion and came to ask for advice. In the past few days, Jiang Sanfeng, Dai Yi and Dong Shui had sparred with each other but didn't have the chance to spar with the peak geniuses of the northern continent. Okay. Zhao Feng nodded his head and inspected the 3. The cultivation of the 3 didn't change much. After reaching the true spirit realm, every increase in cultivation was extremely difficult. The difficulty would increase exponentially in the future. At the same age with a difference of 1 realm, for example the true human rank and the true mystic rank, the difference in cultivation speed could be calculated by many times. This included Zhao Feng himself. Although his cultivation had increased, there was still a long way to go before he reached the late stages of the true human rank. After all, his eye bloodline didn't help much in terms of cultivation speed. It mainly helped in terms of comprehension. The first to come up was Dong Shui, who was at the early stages of the true human rank. In terms of strength, Dong Shui was the weakest of the 4. Chapter Leader Zhao, please go easy on us. Dong Shui said respectfully. Zhao Feng had promised the 3 that he wouldn't use his eye bloodline. Dong Shui's ice jade technique was an ice elemental skill, and when she attacked, cold wind would howl and a faint blue mist would surround her body. She would occasionally send berserk balls of wind towards Zhao Feng. Zhao Feng didn't underestimate her. The attribute of the opponent's skill was similar to his bloodline. During the battle, he casually used his god's spiritual eye to see the characteristics of ice elemental skills. After dozens of exchanges, Zhao Feng seemed to have comprehended something, and his figure flashed. Shua shua. 2 figures of Zhao Feng attacked Dong Shui from the left and right. Dong Shui panicked slightly and was pushed back several yards by a palm of lightning. Her body went numb and she couldn't move for a long time. Your ice jade incantation is not bad, it can already greatly reduce and restrict the speed of opponents of the same level. However, your close combat skills and agility are still lacking. Zhao Feng commented. Dong Shui stuck out her tongue. Thanks for the lesson. In terms of ice-type cultivation techniques, the northernmost profound ice palace was the best in the entire continent. Goddess Bing Wei of this generation of the Mystic Ice Palace has obtained the essence of the Mystic Ice inheritance and reached the top 3 in the last sacred true dragon gathering. Zhao Feng had heard of the Mystic Ice Palace before. It was one of the 10 great sects of the continent. The Mystic Ice Palace was rooted in the cold extreme north, and was most famous for monopolizing one of the 4 great inheritances, the Mystic Ice inheritance. Every few decades, the Profound Ice Palace would have a chance to open the Profound Ice inheritance, and only those who cultivated ice-related techniques could enter. Subsequently, the second one was Dai Yi. She was sparring with Zhao Feng. Dai Ye's cultivation had reached the late stages of the true human rank and she was just 1 point away from becoming one of the 10 stars. Zhao Feng and Dai Yi exchanged close to 100 moves, but he did not see any obvious flaws. Dai Ye's speed wasn't bad and she was extremely agile. She was experienced in close combat. If one had to point out a flaw, it would be that she didn't have explosive power. However, this was because she didn't have a bloodline inheritance or a cultivation technique. Normal girls didn't have explosive power. This was the biggest difference between Dai Yi and Jiang Sanfeng. The last one was Jiang Sanfeng's turn. Zhao Feng still didn't use his eye bloodline. This battle was more intense and the clash of lightning and fire was shocking. After 100 moves. Claw of Lightning. Zhao Feng used the same move and waved his hand. A claw of lightning several yards long appeared in the air and with a crackle, it slammed down like lightning. A destructive and tyrannical power of thunder and lightning pressed down on Jiang Sanfeng. The numbness from the electric shock made Jiang Sanfeng feel deeply oppressed, making it difficult for him to breathe. Pa! Jiang Sanfeng was smashed onto the ground by the claw of lightning and his body turned numb and black. He said with a depressed expression, "This move again." The claw of lightning was Zhao Feng's most powerful and practical move. It could lock onto an area and was very hard to dodge. If it was used with the god's spiritual eye, the opponent would almost never be able to dodge unless their cultivation was much higher than Zhao Feng's. Zhao Feng smiled but didn't say anything. Even if Jiang Sanfeng's speed was twice as fast, he wouldn't be able to escape from the claw of lightning. Once the claw of lightning covered an area, it would cause a numbing effect and restrict the opponent's movement speed. Furthermore, Zhao Feng's mental energy locked onto the opponent's path. If it was used with the god's spiritual eye, he could predict the opponent's intentions. In less than half an incense stick of time, the 3 had lost to Zhao Feng. After losing, Jiang Sanfeng asked to feel Zhao Feng's eye bloodline. With your cultivation, it'll be hard for you to block my eye bloodline. Zhao Feng faintly shook his head. Chapter leader, we don't want to break your eye bloodline, but there will be geniuses with other eye bloodlines appearing in the sacred true dragon gathering. Dai Yi explained. Oh. You're sure they'll appear? Definitely. Jiang Sanfeng said confidently. Zhao Feng thought about it. If the Sky Cloud Forest could have eye bloodlines like Lin Tong and himself, then it was normal for the Azure Flower Continent to have other strong eye bloodlines. Although eye bloodlines are rare, there's almost 100 of them on the continent. Among them, the 3 eye bloodline families had the most powerful eye bloodlines. In the sacred true dragon gathering, the 3 eye families will send their geniuses to participate and they're extremely hard to deal with. When mentioning the 3 eye families, Jiang Sanfeng and company all had solemn expressions. In the past sacred true dragon gatherings, unless one was extremely strong, they would lose badly when they met the geniuses of the 3 families. Last time in the sacred true dragon gathering, I met the Tuoba family's heavenly piercing eye, and with one move, an invisible blade slashed across my throat. Jiang Sanfeng said with a frightened expression. If it was a life or death battle, the Tuoba family's heavenly piercing eye would be able to slice Jiang Sanfeng's throat or pierce his heart. Hearing this, Zhao Feng's heart shook. He wasn't the only family with a powerful eye bloodline. At the same time, he was filled with anticipation. Zhao Feng would be able to improve his eye bloodline techniques if he could see more eye bloodline techniques. One had to know that Zhao Feng's god's spiritual eye specialized in learning and could copy techniques that weren't too complex. Alright then, as you wish. Zhao Feng stood still and his blue hair blew without any wind. Eye of Illusion. Zhao Feng's god's spiritual eye scanned over the three. Plop. 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 Jiang Sanfeng and the other two fell to the ground covered in cold sweat. Their faces were filled with shock. Enduring the Eye of Illusion once can increase your resistance against mental illusions. I also have the Eye of Heart and the Eye of Ice Soul which can control and erode the mind. Zhao Feng laughed. His eye bloodline had now formed a complete system. 2 days later. Blood-hair-colored Tianma and the two elders took Zhao Feng and the other geniuses and set off. The Golden Spear Blood Dragon sedan opened the way and its speed surpassed normal true mystic rank experts. Our target is the Northern Star Stand. However, the Canopy Great Country is one entity and all the geniuses participating in the Sacred True Dragon Gathering will set off together. The Deputy Patriarch said. Canopy Great Country Imperials, a field. The 10 stars led by Prince Jin, Tian Yunji and company arrived. Apart from that, there were also the Imperials, Iron Blood Religion and other forces such as Dai Yi and Dong Shui. On the surface, the Great Country had 10 spots but in reality, there were only 16. Of all the geniuses present, Prince Jin was the leader. Prince Jin stood at the very front and when he saw Zhao Feng arrive, his expression became slightly dim. Zhao Feng's arrival caused many geniuses to look at him with wary and respectful gazes. He didn't feel anything as he closed his eyes and comprehended. Now. He had a certain level of foundation in his comprehension of the Ball of Ice Soul. Next, he tried to comprehend the incomplete Dark Eye secret technique. The Dark Eye incomplete page and the Ball of Ice Soul were given to Zhao Feng by the scarlet-haired elder. Among them, the Dark Eye incomplete volume was a technique that focused on the eyes, and it was also a forbidden technique. Zhao Feng's consciousness soon entered the Dark Eye incomplete page world. Even when the geniuses of the Great Country set off, Zhao Feng didn't open his eyes. On the journey, the two elders rode a true mystic rank bird and carried the 4 geniuses. Who flying in the air, the wind was fierce and there were occasional bumps. Zhao Feng was still immersed in comprehension. Meow meow. The little thieving cat jumped out and burped as it took care of its master. Within the Golden Spear Blood Dragon sedan, Deputy Patriarch Tianma revealed a faint smile. He had originally planned to let Zhao Feng enter the Blood Dragon sedan to comprehend but didn't expect his little cat to put in so much effort. Although the little thieving cat was small, its strength and abilities weren't to be underestimated. It stood on Zhao Feng's shoulder and allowed the wind to sweep through the air. Once it got close to Zhao Feng, it would weaken. This cat. The Deputy Patriarch inspected the little thieving cat and thought of something. He had seen many feline-type spiritual pets, but he had only seen 2 truly mysterious and peculiar ones. One was the one in front of him. The other was the sage of the 6 Warlock Divine Tower. The Deputy Patriarch had seen the sage once before when the Patriarch was still a sovereign at the Origin Core realm. Under the guidance of the sage, the Patriarch fell into a deep sleep and waited for a ray of hope in the future. Meow the little thieving cat seemed to sense something and glanced in the direction of the Golden Spear Blood Dragon sedan. The cunningness and intelligence in its eyes wasn't something that any living being could have in just 1 or 2 years. Within the dimension of his left eye, a tattered book appeared in the mental energy dimension. The book was tattered and many of its contents were blurry. Dark Eye incomplete page. Those without a powerful eye bloodline can't try it. Those below the Origin Core realm need to cultivate carefully. Zhao Feng scanned the contents and couldn't help but be moved. The requirements for cultivating this eye technique were simply too high. Firstly, one needed a powerful eye bloodline. Secondly, one's cultivation had to be at the origin core realm and the lowest had to be at the true lord rank. Zhao Feng didn't think too much about it since this was only the beginning. The ultimate goal of the Dark Eye Incomplete page was to cultivate a forbidden eye bloodline technique, the Dark Eye of Death. Chapter 337. The Dark Eye of Death was the ultimate level of this forbidden technique, and it represented the intent of death. Once I cultivate the Death Nether Eyes, any living being's soul will have nowhere to hide from the gaze of the Nether Eyes and will be forcibly taken away. Although it can't decide your life, it can control your death. Zhao Feng's understanding of the world was flipped once more. The Dark Eye of Death's essence was to comprehend the laws of death. Life and death were the laws of the world that couldn't be controlled. No one had ever heard of someone who could comprehend life and death and become immortal. Even sovereigns at the origin core realm only had a few hundred years of lifespan, and they couldn't comprehend life and death. Even Void God realm kings and emperors couldn't break free from the shackles of life and death. Above the Void God realm was the Mystic Light realm and the legendary Heavenly Divine realm. The Heavenly Divine realm was said to be on the level of gods and celestials. Maybe only those at this level could become immortal. The will that represents death. Is this Dark Eye Incomplete art a fantasy? Zhao Feng couldn't help but shake his head. He felt that it wasn't realistic. At the very least, this book was incomplete and extremely tattered. According to the description, the Dark Eye Incomplete page had 9 incomplete pages, and only by combining them could one cultivate the ultimate Dark Eye of Death. With Zhao Feng's current level, he felt that the Dark Eye Incomplete page was extremely profound. There were many terms inside that were extremely ancient. If it wasn't for the fact that Zhao Feng had stepped into the ancient Tao of the soul, he probably wouldn't even be able to touch the surface. Although Zhao Feng couldn't cultivate the Dark Eye Incomplete page in a short amount of time, his horizons were broadened. There were many forbidden eye techniques in the Dark Eye Incomplete page, and they were called Dark Eye techniques. Some of them could corrupt the opponent's mind and soul. Once one was hit by them, it would be impossible to heal them, and they would only be able to watch as they died. There were also some Dark Eye techniques that could collect the souls of the dead and use them to kill without leaving a trace. High-level secret magics could even be used to plant a terrifying and vicious curse on an enemy through the dark eyes. The 100 Graves Forbidden Ground that Zhao Feng had interacted with before had a powerful curse that even experts at the true spirit realm couldn't escape. Up until now, only the Scarlet Moon religion leader had left safely. All in all, the secret eye techniques in the Dark Eye Incomplete volume were cruel and vicious. The invisible methods of death were chilling. The journey was long, and time passed slowly. Zhao Feng had started to dabble in the Dark Eye Incomplete volume. Even though he had not stepped into this path, he had gained some comprehension and thought about it. Using the principles of some of the secret arts in the Dark Eye Incomplete volume, Zhao Feng further improved the power of his eye bloodline. At this stage, he was still the core of the two. One was the core of the lightning inheritance, and the other was the ancient Tao of the soul with the Lord of Ice soul as the core. One was in the physical world, and the other was in the spiritual world. Only by merging the two would Zhao Feng have a deeper foundation and capital. In the blink of an eye, nearly 2 months had passed. On this day, Zhao Feng slowly opened his eyes, a hint of exhaustion on his face. However, the light in his eyes gave off an even stronger mental energy pressure. After nearly 2 months of comprehension, Zhao Feng's 2 cores had improved greatly. The power of the Ice Soul Pearl's second level had increased Zhao Feng's mental energy level to the point where it was no weaker than the true mystic rank. On the second floor of the Lightning Inheritance, Zhao Feng's comprehension had reached the late stages. At this point in time, the outline of the star lightning seal on Zhao Feng's forehead became clearer. Even without using the power of the lightning inheritance, it could be seen. Meow meow. The little thieving cat yawned with sleepy eyes. You've worked hard. Zhao Feng put the little thieving cat into the spiritual pet bag. However, when he checked the interspatial bracelet and ring, his expression changed. Damned thieving cat. Zhao Feng's eyebrows jumped in anger. The lightning star mark on his forehead pulsed vaguely, and the lightning and thunder yuan qi in the surroundings became unusually fierce, giving rise to crackling sounds. Over half of the resources and primal crystal stones in his interspatial dimension had been lost. Without even asking, it was obvious that they had been eaten by the little thieving cat. The little thieving cat never did hard work for free. It had protected Zhao Feng for nearly 2 months and blocked the chaotic winds in the air, so it obviously had to pay for its services. What a strong aura of lightning. The representatives of the Canopy Great Country all sensed it. This was especially so for Prince Jin and the other 10-star geniuses of the Great Country. Zhao Feng took a light breath and concealed his aura. He then picked up the little thieving cat. The little thieving cat had a pitiful look as it waved its paws around to explain. What? You're in the growing phase, and you need resources and primal crystal stones. Zhao Feng inspected the little thieving cat suspiciously. Even after eating the mountain of resource crystals, it did not show any obvious growth. Meow meow. The little thieving cat signaled that it would help Zhao Feng in the sacred true dragon gathering. Do you have any new abilities after eating so many of my resources? The little thieving cat, Zhao Feng shook his head and became more and more disappointed with this cat. Right at this moment, Zhao Feng's god spiritual eye sensed something and looked into the distance. In the distance, there was a bright white spot that gave off strange ripples. It was 500 kilometers away. The white light came closer and closer. We've finally arrived at the Northern Star Stand. A voice sounded from the Canopy Great Country Group. That bright spot was a dazzling white stone platform that had a circumference of 5 kilometers. In the middle of the stone stand was an ancient black stone door. The white, sparkling stone platform and the pure black, unadorned stone door were very conspicuous in the vast desert. This desert had a terrifying sandstorm that could swallow anyone under the true spirit realm. There were powerful beasts on the ground and in the air. Even those at the true human rank would die here. This is the Northern Star Stand. Zhao Feng's god spiritual eye scanned over and found that the level of the arrays here exceeded his knowledge. This arrangement made him think of the stone stand in the middle of the 100 Graves forbidden ground. When the Canopy Great Country arrived, there were already many figures on the Northern Star Stand. The Purple Rising Great Country and Scarlet Sky Great Country have arrived. Prince Jin's eyes scanned across the crowd. At this moment in time, the people on the Northern Star Stand had formed their own groups. The geniuses of the 3 great countries of the northern continent had gathered together. Apart from that, there were many strong countries, sects and families. There were probably close to 100 strong countries in the northern continent. However, each strong country only had 2 spots. Compared to them, the 3 great countries were the largest countries in the northern continent. Many strong countries were under the 3 great countries. For example, when the Canopy Great Country's side descended, several strong countries' troops quickly gathered over. The 3 great countries were Purple Rising Great Country, Scarlet Sky Great Country and Canopy Great Country. Zhao Feng found that the 3 great countries contained over half of the forces in the northern continent. After all, within a country, there were many sects and families that had their own spots. Hee hee, little golden pig, we meet again. A teasing female voice sounded from the Purple Rising Great Country. The leader of the Purple Rising Great Country was a heroic purple-haired girl wearing a phoenix-embroidered battle robe. Little golden pig. Zhao Feng found that the phoenix-embroidered battle robe girl was facing the Canopy Great Country. This Princess Linue, Prince Jin gritted his teeth but felt his head hurt. Jiang Sanfeng suppressed his laughter and said in a low voice, "Little Golden Pig is the nickname Princess Linyue gave to Prince Jean." However, Prince Jean was completely defeated by Princess Linyue twice. Princess Linyue was the princess of the Purple Rising Great Country and also the strongest bloodline genius in the Great Country. Princess Linyue's strength is famous across the entire northern continent. Before, she had defeated 2 true mystic rank experts. In the last sacred true dragon gathering, Princess Linyue made it into the top 100. This time, her strength and bloodline have both increased greatly. The people on the Northern Star stand discussed in low voices or asked each other. Princess Linyue slowly walked over to the Canopy Great Country's side. Little Golden Pig, you're the leader of the Canopy Great Country. Looks like the geniuses of the Canopy Great Country aren't very good. Princess Linyue's eyes spun as she scanned the geniuses of the Canopy Great Country. Although it seemed to be a casual scan, her eyes contained a weird sharpness and pressure. The hearts of the geniuses who were scanned shook and instinctively avoided her gaze. Humph. Wang Xiaoguai didn't show any weakness. A cold light flashed in Tian Yunji's eyes as if an invisible blade had sliced through the air. Zhao Feng was unmoved and Lu Qinxin was quiet and didn't want to compete with the world. Jiang Sanfeng instinctively avoided her gaze, unable to meet her gaze. Princess Linyue was secretly surprised. She had just used a secret technique of the Imperials to check her opponent's strength. If the opponent couldn't even meet her gaze, then it meant that they were at least 2 levels lower than her. If the opponent could meet her gaze, then it meant that they had the will to challenge her and weren't much weaker than her. However, after checking, Princess Linyue was slightly surprised. Wang Xiaoguai and Tian Yunji were both able to meet her gaze and even retaliate. Especially Tian Yunji's blade intent, it had almost shaken her mind. This Tian Yunji has comprehended such a strong embryonic blade intent. Looks like his strength might even surpass Prince Jean and he's a strong opponent. Princess Linyue concluded. Apart from that, in the Canopy Great Country, Princess Linyue couldn't see through Zhao Feng and Lu Qinxin. Especially Zhao Feng, who was completely unmoved as if he didn't care about her gaze. Hee, what beautiful blue hair. Princess Linyue flashed and appeared in front of Zhao Feng with an envious expression. Zhao Feng's light blue hair was like a dream, as if it was made by the heavens. Princess Linyue also had another goal, and that was to investigate Zhao Feng's strength. But after looking closely, she confirmed that this guy was only at the early stages of the true human rank. There shouldn't be a second Xian Wuheng in the northern continent. Princess Linyue shook her head and felt that she was thinking too much. From Princess Linyue's arrival to her departure, Zhao Feng didn't do anything. In the Canopy Great Country, Prince Jean and company broke out in cold sweat. The difficulty of dealing with this Princess Linyue, these veteran rising stars had a deep understanding of it. So. Whooshing sounds came from the air as more and more strong countries and sects gathered. Which strong country is this? It doesn't look familiar. A few people landed on a blood blue bird far away and they didn't fit in with the others. Oh. Come to think of it, it seems to be a very remote country called Iron Dragon. Chapter 338. The people who descended from the blood blue bird were from the remote Iron Dragon country. Because it was far away, only a few people knew of the Iron Dragon Kingdom. The person in the lead was a black-clothed young man who held an iron fan in his hand. His eyes were like an eagle's, and they were empty and cold. What was strange was that his skin had a layer of metallic luster to it. Even his clothes and hair seemed to be fused with metal, and they emitted a cold metallic aura. True Lord rank. When the crowd looked at him, they didn't dare to look down on him in the slightest. Instead, they were filled with respect and fear. Although the Iron Dragon country was far away, it had at least a peak True Lord rank expert. There were 2 representatives from the Iron Dragon country. One was a black-robed youth and the other was an old-fashioned youth. The former was at the early stages of the true human rank while the latter was at the early stages of the true human rank. This is the Northern Star Stand. Lu Long, Bei Moi, you two can interact with the other geniuses, but don't cause trouble. True Lord Tiexiao's voice was indifferent as he ordered. Yes, Allah. Bei Moi took a deep breath. The gazes of the geniuses on the Northern Star Stand gave him a lot of pressure. Even someone as strong as True Lord Taixiao, who forced the upper echelon of the 13 countries to surrender, tried to be as low-key as possible. The Iron Dragon country could be considered a strong country in the northern continent, but it was below average. At this moment, the Northern Star Stand was filled with representatives from the 3 great countries, many strong countries, and large sections. The 3 great countries were above the other strong countries. Even 10 Iron Dragon strong countries would not be able to withstand a single blow. Even some sects and families could sweep through the Iron Dragon country. Therefore, the Iron Dragon country tried to be low-key and cautious. Bei Moi, Zhao Feng's face was filled with shock as he stared at the familiar, old-fashioned youth from the Iron Dragon country. Bei Moi stood on the spot. He was a little cautious and nervous, not daring to look around too openly. Furthermore, there were too many geniuses on the Northern Star stage, so Bei Moi didn't notice Zhao Feng. Therefore, it was only Zhao Feng who paid attention to Bei Moi. This Bei Moi betrayed Lord Guanjuan's clan and betrayed the Broken Moon clan with Hai Yun Master. Why isn't Hai Yun Master here? Zhao Feng's eyes twinkled as he didn't find Hai Yun Master. If Hai Yun Master was still at the same cultivation level, Zhao Feng would be able to kill him easily. At this moment, a small disturbance occurred in a certain area of the Northern Star Stand. The 2 young stars did not agree with each other and started fighting. The 2 geniuses were at the peak true human rank and the late stages of the true human rank respectively. As they fought, the wind howled and air currents blew within 100 yards radius. All right. The surrounding geniuses were overjoyed as they watched the show. There were many geniuses on the Northern Star Stand, and they were all geniuses from various places. It was normal for a few words to cause conflict. Every time the Northern Star Stand gathers, the geniuses of the various factions of the northern continent find it hard to get along. Jiang Sanfeng could not help but shake his head. The older generation doesn't restrain their juniors. Zhao Feng's eyes flashed. In just a short while, the geniuses from a few factions had already started fighting. One reason is because of the conflicts between countries and clans, and even the grudges from the last sacred true dragon gathering. The other reason is that the geniuses of the various factions are trying to understand each other's strength. Dai Yi explained. Understand? Zhao Feng smiled. This word was very suitable. The northern continent was very big and many forces and countries were far away from each other, so there weren't many chances to interact. Now that all the geniuses had gathered, it was time to test each other's strength. Under this situation, even if there weren't any conflicts, there would be conflicts. Even one of the 3 great countries, the Canopy Great Country, couldn't escape. Normal strong countries and sects obviously didn't dare offend the Canopy Great Country. However, there wasn't just one great country in the northern continent. There were also a small number of sects and ancient families that didn't fear the Canopy Great Country. The Canopy Great Country is really colorful this time. Gold fur, blue fur, purple fur. I thought I'd entered a dog's kennel. An ear-piercing mocking voice sounded from a nearby faction. The one who spoke was a bald man. His chest was outlined with a strange dark green blood pattern. It wasn't a tattoo, but rather a kind of aura that originated from his bloodline. When he breathed, there seemed to be liquid flowing out, vivid and lifelike. It's Xie Qinglong from the Scarlet Sky Great Country. This person is ranked 3rd in the Scarlet Sky Great Country and has the rare Azure Flame Tattoo Dragon bloodline. He reached the top 100 in the last sacred true dragon gathering. The geniuses from the nearby countries all recognized the bald-headed male's identity. The instigator was Xie Qinglong from the Scarlet Sky Great Country, and his cultivation had reached the peak true human rank. When Prince Jin and the others heard this, they cursed angrily and retaliated. Ha ha ha. I was wondering who it was. So it's a little worm from the Scarlet Sky Great Country. A dominating voice sounded from the Canopy Great Countryside. Everyone felt as if an invisible blade had sliced through the air, and a piercing pain on their skin caused them to look over. A handsome male wearing an azure battle robe with an ancient blade on his back stood out. Tian Yunji. The third-ranked genius of the Canopy Great Country. If I remember correctly, didn't he lose to Xie Qinglong in the past? As soon as Tian Yunji appeared, he attracted the attention of many. Someone who lost to me dares to come out and embarrass himself. Xie Qinglong snickered. The two were both ranked third in their respective great countries. However, Tian Yunji had lost to Xie Qinglong before. The clash between the geniuses of the two great countries attracted the attention of the geniuses of the other forces. Even Princess Linyue from the Purple Rising Great Country smiled faintly as she looked over. Azure Sun Blazing Dragon. Xie Qinglong spread his arms, and the dark azure blood tattoo on his chest started to flow and form a dragon-shaped azure flame. Hu boom! As Xie Qinglong raised his palm, the dragon snake-shaped green flame roared and raged. The high temperature spread out for hundreds of feet and almost engulfed Tian Yunji in an instant. What a powerful bloodline secret technique! This is the strength of the top 100. Xie Qinglong's power made the hearts of many geniuses who were participating in the sacred true dragon gathering for the first time shake. The destructive power of the flames was enough to burn normal true human rank cultivators to ashes. The Iron Dragon Countryside. This is the peak genius of the northern continent. Bei Moi took a deep breath. Xie Qinglong's bloodline secret technique countered his dark water inheritance. At this moment in time, he felt his flesh and qi of true spirit tremble. If they really fought, he probably wouldn't be able to take more than a few moves from Xie Qinglong. Sky Cloud Blade Drawing Technique. Jiang. As the azure sharp ancient saber was unsheathed, a streak of dazzling azure saber light that was more than 100 feet long slashed the raging dragon-shaped azure flames into pieces. At the same time, a formless saber intent aura rushed into the sky, urging his mind and will. Many geniuses felt their hearts go cold as if an invisible blade had sliced through their bodies. Blade Intent. The beginning form of Blade Intent. When did Tian Yunji have such a powerful blade intent? In the nearby Purple Rising Great Kingdom, the forces of several strong countries were all startled. Tian Yunji's saber intent tore through the air. The power of his saber was boundlessly domineering, forcing Xie Qinglong to take one or two steps back. This was only the first blade drawing technique. Next, Tian Yunji activated the power of the sky and cloud race's bloodlines. Blue and white light runes appeared on the startling rainbow saber ray, which had the power to split rivers. When did this brat comprehend blade intent and it's so strong? In just a few moves, Xie Qinglong was forced back and a bloody gash was left on his face and chest. In terms of bloodline, Tian Yunji wasn't weaker than him and was even stronger. The blade intent raised his offense to a whole new level. Even Prince Jin and Princess Linyue were slightly surprised. Tian Yunji's current strength was enough to reach the top 100 of the sacred true dragon gathering or even higher. The rumors are true. After losing to Xian Wuheng, he comprehended blade intent and it's twice as strong as normal geniuses. Princess Linyue's eyes flashed. Princess Linyue had experienced Xian Wuheng's strength before. Half a year ago, Princess Linyue and Xian Wuheng had fought to a draw. What made her angry was that the unfathomable and mysterious genius only used one hand to fight with her from beginning to end. Xian Wuheng's story became a strange topic of conversation in the northern continent. He didn't have high talent nor did he have an inheritance bloodline. He had never even learned from his seniors. However, it was precisely such a person who comprehended step by step on his own, integrating many cultivation methods and inheritances, and creating his own cultivation path. Bam! Xie Qinglong's body stumbled and took a few blows from Tian Yunji before finally losing and spitting out a mouthful of blood. Thanks. Tian Yunji returned to the Canopy Great Country as the victor. The Canopy Great Country's victory obviously made the Scarlet Sky Great Country lose face and sent out the second-ranked genius. Of the three great countries, the Canopy Great Country's overall strength wasn't weaker than the other two great countries, but the strength of their younger generation geniuses couldn't compare to the other two great countries. Zhe. Wang Xiaoguai rubbed his fists and excitedly jumped out. He waved his gold and silver stick and faced the Scarlet Sky Great Country. The second-ranked genius of the Scarlet Sky Great Country had reached the peak true human rank and wasn't much weaker than Prince Jin. Wang Xiaoguai fought crazily in this battle. The more heavily injured he was, the more powerful his bloodline would be. It was truly abnormal. After 100 moves, Wang Xiaoguai's injuries weren't light but his battle power increased greatly and he won. After losing 2 battles, the Scarlet Sky Great Country's expression finally changed. If the second and third-ranked geniuses of the Canopy Great Country are this strong, then the first Prince Jin, the expressions of the Scarlet Sky and Purple Rising Great Countries changed. In reality, Zhao Feng knew that Wang Xiaoguai and Prince Jin were evenly matched and if it was a life-and-death battle, Wang Xiaoguai might win. In terms of offense, Tian Yunji's battle power even surpassed Prince Jin's. The Canopy Great Country is indeed different this time. I know the first-ranked Prince Jin but the second and third-ranked strength has increased dramatically. Princess Linyue's eyes twinkled as she glanced at Zhao Feng and Lu Qinxin. On the Northern Star stand. In order to make it easier to challenge, the seats were arranged in front and behind. Kuli, go test that blue-haired youth's strength. Fan Xiaoya, go test out that enviously beautiful woman in white. Princess Linyue ordered. Kuli and Fan Xiaoya were ranked 4th and 5th in the Purple Rising Great Country. According to the previous rankings, they were at least 3rd and 4th in the Canopy Great Country. Princess Linyue's targets were Zhao Feng and Lu Qinxin. Chapter 339. Canopy Great Country and Purple Rising Great Country are friends. It's rare for us juniors to gather together. This is a good opportunity for us to learn from each other and improve our friendship. Princess Linyue's phoenix eyes were burning and she looked valiant and formidable. She directly proposed a spar, which was straightforward and decisive. She wasn't like the Crimson Sky Great Nation and the other forces, who came looking for trouble. Prince Jin couldn't help but shiver. Could it be that this Princess Linyue wanted to challenge him? He had no chance of winning against Princess Linyue who was at the true mystic rank. Prince Jin's bloodline might be strong, but Princess Linyue was stronger than him. In terms of cultivation, Princess Linyue was also a level higher than him. Thankfully, Princess Linyue had no intention to challenge Prince Jin. In her opinion, Prince Jin's background was hard to know and he had lost to her many times. He was not worth a fight. Her true opponent was Xian Wuheng. She even wanted to challenge Mo Tianyi. Soon, a man and a woman walked out of the Purple Rising Great Kingdom. They were the 4th and 5th geniuses of the country, Kuli and Fan Xiaoya. The cultivation of the two were at the late stage and early stage true human rank respectively. This ranking corresponded to Zhao Feng and Lu Qinxin's ranking in Canopy Great Country. According to past experience, the Canopy 10 stars weren't a match for the Purple Rise 10 stars at all. Zhao Feng, who was sitting cross-legged, suddenly felt a battle intent coming from a silver-robed youth opposite him. Blue-haired brat, come out and fight. Kuli's face was filled with impatience. He couldn't even be bothered to say any polite words. If it wasn't for Princess Linyue's instructions, he wouldn't have paid attention to Zhao Feng. Li had the right to be proud. He had participated in the last sacred true dragon gathering and reached the top 300. Half a year ago in the Purple Rising Great Country, he killed a peak true human rank bandit and chased him for thousands of miles to take his head. After that, Li's fame spread far and wide. Now that he was asked to challenge a newcomer with a lower cultivation than him, he naturally had no interest at all. While Li was shouting, he didn't notice that the Canopy 10 stars, led by Prince Jin and company, were gloating. Tian Yunji, Jiang Sanfeng, and the others wore playful expressions on their faces. All these details fell into Princess Linyue's eyes and she revealed a trace of astonishment. On the side of the Iron Dragon country, Zhao Feng. Bei Moi's heart jumped and his expression changed dramatically. He took a deep breath and stared at the blue-haired youth in the Canopy Great Country camp. What happened? Lu Long, the other representative of the Iron Dragon country, noticed the change in Bei Moi's expression. Nothing, I just saw an acquaintance. Bei Moi focused on the situation over there. The level of the three great countries in the northern continent was far from what the two of them could reach. At this moment, the situation here had attracted the attention of many geniuses on the Northern Star stand. Zhao Feng sat in his original position, indifferent to Li's rude challenge. He even cast his gaze towards another corner. Senior brother Bei Moi, we meet again. How is the Broken Moon clan of the 13 countries? A voice rang out in Bei Moi's mind. Bei Moi's heart trembled. When Zhao Feng communicated with him, Lu Long and even true Lord Taishao didn't sense it. It was hard to imagine that junior brother Zhao would be able to communicate with him so casually in the face of a challenge. Zhao Feng, the Purple Rising Great Country and Canopy Great Country have dealings with each other. This is a friendly spar, so go ahead. It won't waste much of your time. Seeing the cold atmosphere, Prince Jin smiled and tried to smooth things over. After all, he was the leader of the Canopy Great Country. Prince Jin's words made the eyebrows of the geniuses of the Purple Rising Great Country furrow in puzzlement. Why did it feel like this youth needed Prince Jin to persuade him? It was as if he was saying, go ahead, it won't take up much of your time anyways. Preposterous. Anger rose in Li's heart. Prince Jin and Zhao Feng's expressions were filled with disdain towards him. Forget about Prince Jin, the other party was stronger than him. His opponent should be Princess Linyue. But what right did this blue-haired youth have? Ha ha ha. Blue-haired brat, you're called Zhao Feng, right? If you can last 10 moves against me, I'll lose. Li laughed instead of being angry as his silver-white robe fluttered in the wind. When a layer of red and green chi patterns appeared around his body, stacking and forming dozens of flaming saber patterns. It was like a flaming saber wind formation, sweeping 100 feet in all directions. Normal true human rank cultivators would probably be turned to ashes if they came within 10 yards of him. Not only that, but a crimson-black saber also appeared in his palm. The surface of the saber was covered in dense fire patterns. Countless flame wave saber patterns soared into the sky. Looks like Li's serious now. He's actually pushed the scarlet flame symbol to the 7th level. Along with the dark-marked flaming blade, his strength can almost challenge normal true mystic ranks. Those from the Purple Rising Great Country looked gloatingly at Zhao Feng. But they found that the geniuses from the Canopy Great Country also had playful gazes. Brother Zhao, watch out. That guy's battle power is terrifying, not good. He's coming straight over. Bei Moi's expression changed dramatically as he told Zhao Feng through mental energy. Perhaps feeling the threat, Zhao Feng finally turned his gaze towards Li. One glance is all I need to beat you. Zhao Feng's left eye seemed to extend a limitless expanse of ice. Eye of Heart. One of Zhao Feng's 3-eye bloodline techniques was instantly unleashed. Li's gaze couldn't help but fall into the endless blue world and his expression became dazed. The next scene stunned the geniuses present. Dang! The scarlet-black blade in Kuli's hand fell to the ground and his chi of true spirit dissipated. Pa! Pa! Kuli raised his hand and slapped himself repeatedly. Ting, it's my fault. I'm an animal and I shouldn't have let you down. You married that traitor, suffered all kinds of torture, and died. It's all my fault. At this point in time, a loud slap sounded across the Northern Star stand. Kuli slapped himself and his face soon became swollen and blood leaked from the corner of his mouth. Plop! Finally, he knelt on the ground and cried. On the purple rising great kingdom's side, everyone turned pale with fright and shouted. However, Kuli was immersed in his own emotions and didn't sense the outside world. Kuli lost. Princess Linue glanced deeply at Zhao Feng before telling people to carry Kuli away. From the beginning to the end. Zhao Feng sat on the ground and only glanced at Kuli. The Eye of Heart targeted the 7 emotions and 6 desires of a person. No living being didn't have emotions and had no flaws in their heart. Zhao Feng had opened the Eye of Heart and made the other fall into a mental barrier. Back in the Water Moon secret cave, he had used a similar technique to make Master Bai and Master Bai furiously attack the Water Moon pirate. This guy has a terrifying eye bloodline. With just a glance, he defeated Kuli, a level higher. The hearts of the Purple Rising Great Country and Scarlet Sky Great Country shook as they were filled with wariness towards Zhao Feng. On the Iron Dragon Great Country's side, Bai Mua's heart shook. At this moment, Zhao Feng was still talking to him in the mental dimension, asking about the 13 countries and the Broken Moon clan. In other words, Zhao Feng did 2 things at once. While talking to him, he defeated Kuli in one glance. If others knew of this, their evaluation of Zhao Feng's eye bloodline would probably rise another level. After Kuli lost, the other opponent from the Purple Rising Great Country, Fan Xiaoye, was dazed and only reacted after a while. She soon challenged Lu Qinxin. Fan Xiaoye stared at this beautiful woman. Fan Xiaoye's appearance and demeanor made her feel inferior even though she was also a woman. Lu Qinxin smiled, and an antique 7-string zither appeared in her hand. During the capital contest, she did not use this zither. Cultivator of the Tao of Entertainment. A sharp glint flashed through Fan Xiaoye's eyes. She didn't give Lu Qinxin a chance to play a single note. She slashed out a long and narrow crescent moon that streaked through the air, leaving behind a trail of sparks. This kind of single-target attack was fast and strong. Once a cultivator of the Tao of Entertainment started playing, the power would be terrifying. Zheng Lu Qinxin's jade fingers plucked the strings of the qin and caused the blood of many geniuses to boil. A semi-transparent string note was visible to the naked eye as it hurtled toward Fan Xiaoye, leaving a trail of light rippling behind it. Crack! Fan Xiaoye's bluish-purple crescent moon abruptly crumbled as an invisible power surged into her body. Wah! Caught off guard, Fan Xiaoye spat out a mouthful of blood and the continuous half-transparent note forced her back. In almost one move, Fan Xiaoye was defeated. The Purple Rising Great Country's side was dead silent. This Lu Qinxin is also terrifying. If she really uses her qin, she'll be able to easily face several people of the same cultivation. Princess Linue's expression was solemn. She didn't put Zhao Feng or Lu Qinxin in her eyes. What she was wary of was the overall strength of the Canopy Great Country. Prince Jin, Wang Xiaoguai, Tian Yunji, Zhao Feng, Lu Qinxin, none of them were easy to deal with. The strength of the Canopy Great Country's stars has changed greatly this time. In terms of overall strength, the Canopy Great Country suppresses the other 2 great countries. The forces on the Northern Star stand discussed. The upper echelon of the Canopy Great Country's face was red. In the sparring, the Canopy Great Country didn't lose a single battle and swept the other 2 great countries. However, in terms of leaders, the Canopy Great Country is slightly weaker. Prince Jean lost to Princess Linyue more than once. Some people saw the Canopy Great Country's weakness. As time passed, more and more strong countries, sects, and families arrived. Zhao Feng closed his eyes and didn't care about the outside world. At a certain moment, the Northern Star stand broke out into discussion. The 10,000 Sword Clans here. The 10,000 Sword Clan is the #1 sword clan of the Northern Continent. Their strength is close to the 10 great clans and can sweep any strong country. Several figures descended from the sky. The leader was a one-eyed sword cultivator whose cultivation had reached the half-step origin core realm, and his aura was even stronger than the Grand Elder of the Imperials. That old bastard has also come. The blood-hair-colored Chima's expression changed. In terms of strength, the 10,000 Sword Clan was close to a one-star clan and was even stronger than the Iron Blood religion. There were two geniuses from the 10,000 Sword Clan. One was an azure-robed male with weird white hair. There was also a young lady in snow-white clothes who was untainted by even a speck of dust. Her eyes were deep and profound, and when they flickered from time to time, they would be as sharp as an ethereal sword. It's her. Bei Mua's expression changed dramatically as he looked at the familiar girl. In the past, a girl in a plain robe had crushed all the geniuses of the 13 Clans Alliance under her feet with a sword in her hand. He instinctively looked towards Zhao Feng, but the latter had his eyes closed and didn't sense anything. Chapter 340. The white-clothed girl from the 10,000 Sword Clan was the former #1 genius of the 13 clans, Zhang Yuyue. The 10,000 Sword Clan was the #1 sword clan of the Northern Continent and had a strong foundation. Their overall strength was only below the 10 great clans. When a sect of this level descended, the other powerful countries and sects would have to make way. The head disciple of the 10,000 Sword Clan Xia Xianshang reached the top 30 in the last sacred True Dragon gathering. Apart from Mo Tianyi, no one in the Northern Continent can fight against him. The geniuses all had solemn and fearful expressions as they inspected the weird white-haired youth. Xia Xianshang was at the true mystic rank and was the #1 genius of the Northern Continent Sword Clan. Who's that white-clothed girl? She's only at the late stages of the true human rank but is able to become one of the 2 spots of the 10,000 Sword Clan. You don't know her, but she's the female genius of the 10,000 Sword Clan, Zhang Yuyue. Her talent isn't any weaker than Xia Xianshang's. Apparently, she comprehended sword intent even earlier than Xia Xianshang. The gazes of the geniuses gathered on the 2 geniuses of the 10,000 Sword Clan. The leaders of the 3 great countries such as Prince Jean and Princess Linyue smiled and greeted Xia Xianshang. Xia Xianshang smiled and nodded his head towards Princess Linyue. As for Prince Jean and company, they only had a faint impression of them and their attitude was cold. Prince Jean was slightly unhappy but didn't dare to show it. All 3 great countries wanted to rope in the 10,000 Sword Clan and didn't dare to offend them. This Zhang Yuyue was able to become one of the 2 spots of the 10,000 Sword Clan. Princess Linyue was surprised. In her memory, the 10,000 Sword Clan had 2 or 3 peak true human rank geniuses whose strength was on par with Prince Jean. It was hard to imagine Zhang Yuyue's battle power to be able to kill her way out. Unfortunately, Zhao Feng was currently comprehending with his eyes closed and didn't see Zhang Yuyue. His blue hair and cold aura was different from before, so Zhang Yuyue didn't pay any attention to him. However, Bei Mua who was in the corner recognized Zhang Yuyue and was slightly excited. The 2 of them came from the same remote region, but now they had the opportunity to compete against each other on the stage of the same era. Life was so subtle. The other forces did not dare to challenge the 2 geniuses of the Myriad Sword sect. This was especially so for Xia Xianshang, who was a genius who had ascended to the peak of the Northern Continent. It was estimated that none of the geniuses present would be able to withstand his sword. On the other hand, there were a few geniuses like Princess Linyue who wanted to give it a try. At this moment, the sound of something tearing through the air came from the sky. Many geniuses from the other sects arrived one after another. Look, the people from Sky Yuan's sect are here. Mo Tianyi is here. At a certain moment, the Northern Star Tower was in an uproar. Everyone raised their heads. A few huge birds appeared in the sky, their wingspans were more than 300 feet wide. 3 or 4 of them were at the true Lord rank, and 2 of them had reached the half-step origin core realm. When these figures descended, their powerful auras suppressed the entire area. Being one of the 10 great clans, any elder from the Heavenly Yuan clan was at the true Lord rank. There were 10 disciples representing the Sky Yuan sect. The one in the lead was a handsome and extraordinary young man. His eyes seemed to be shining with a divine light, and his every movement gave people a pressure that they couldn't look him in the eye. He was like a proud son of heaven who would lead an era. He is Mo Tianyi, the legend of the northern continent. Many geniuses' breathing quickened as they revealed expressions of admiration. Some female geniuses stared at Mo Tianyi's chiseled handsome face and his aura that seemed to look down on the stars. Their hearts beat faster and their faces blushed. After Mo Tianyi's arrival, the atmosphere on the Northern Star stand changed. He stood proudly on the spot, heroic and extraordinary, like a crane among chickens. His aura suppressed all the geniuses present. He seemed to be the leader of all the geniuses in the northern continent. No one was dissatisfied and no one challenged him. Only Xia Xianshang from the 10,000 Sword clan faced Mo Tianyi for a breath or two. The clash of mental energy made the hearts of the nearby geniuses tremble. Only after a long time did the scene calm down. However, most of the gazes were on the 10 geniuses of the Heavenly Yuan clan. The geniuses of the Heavenly Yuan clan were all extremely strong. There were 5 or 6 peak true human rank cultivators, and each of them were stronger than Prince Jin. Apart from Mo Tianyi, there was also an elegant girl from the Heavenly Yuan clan that attracted everyone's attention. The young girl was intelligent and beautiful. When she smiled sweetly, she had a beauty that could topple nations. She wore a light purple dress that was like smoke, and her skin had a strange luster to it. She was like a beauty made of ice and jade. It's her. Zhao Yufei. Bei Moi and Song Yue's eyes landed on the purple-dressed girl. The situation of the 13 countries had changed drastically. Many geniuses had left. Bei Moi had betrayed with Hai Yun Master. Song Yue had successfully entered the number 1 sword clan of the northern continent. Zhao Feng had become the chapter leader of the Iron Blood religion. Of the 3, Song Yue's fortune was better than Zhao Feng and Bei Moi's. However, no one would have thought that a beauty like Zhao Yufei would have even greater fortune. The 10 great clans were ancient forces that stood at the peak of the continent. The Heavenly Yuan clan and 10,000 Sword clan have arrived. Almost all the forces of the northern continent have arrived. Many gazes scanned the scene. There's still one more. Princess Linyue's eyes scanned across the scene. Who's missing? There's still the 10,000 Origin clan. They're even older than the Heavenly Yuan clan. Princess Linyue said solemnly. As soon as she finished speaking, the sound of flying appeared. A weird, scarlet cloud flew over. It was dozens of yards wide and a few figures could be seen on it. Looking closely, one would find that the scarlet cloud was formed from countless scarlet metal threads. The 10,000 Origin clan has also arrived. The geniuses of the Heavenly Yuan clan and 10,000 Sword clan all looked over. In the northern continent, the 10,000 Origin clan had the longest inheritance and was on par with the 10,000 Sword clan. There weren't many people from the 10,000 Origin clan, only 3. One of them was a wrinkled old man and 2 males. One of them was a youth with curly hair who stood with his hands behind his back. His eyes were deep and his cultivation had reached the true mystic rank. The other was a green-robed youth who looked ordinary. His eyes were closed, and he was completely unremarkable. Most of the gazes were attracted by the true mystic rank. However, only a few peak geniuses such as Mo Tianyi, Xia Xianshang, Princess Linyue and company had their gazes locked onto the second azure-robed youth. This youth's clothing and face were too normal and could be easily overlooked. Xian Wuhan. Battle intent surged in Tian Yunji's eyes and the azure blade on his back started to hum. Xian Wuhan. He's the genius that has shaken the northern continent. This Xian Wuhan has become the head disciple of the 10,000 origin clan before he's even 20. In the same generation, he's only lost to Mo Tianyi. Apparently, Princess Linyue, Prince Jin and other geniuses of the northern continent have all lost to him. Many geniuses stared at Xian Wuhan with wide eyes. However, Xian Wuhan's face and clothing were too normal and his eyes were closed. Who is this Xian Wuhan? Why do I feel like he's the same type of person as Brother Zhao? Bei Moi and Song Yue didn't know Xian Wuhan. Back then in Sun Feather City, Xian Wuhan was a mysterious genius. At the Genius Summit, he and Zhao Feng tied for first and was known as Xian Wuhan in 10 moves. However, after that Genius Summit, Xian Wuhan mysteriously disappeared, leaving behind an unsolved mystery. What was even more unknown was that at the Genius Summit back then, Xian Wuhan had suppressed his cultivation from start to finish, including when he fought with Zhao Feng. Only Zhao Feng's god spiritual eye had sensed this. Xian Wuhan, we meet again. Zhao Yufei's clear eyes were deep as she muttered to herself. She had entered the northern continent for a period of time and had even personally witnessed Xian Wuhan and Mo Tianyi's battle. In Zhao Yufei's heart, there was an invincible figure who was calm and always breaking legends and creating miracles. Even that person had only fought Xian Wuhan to a draw back then. Brother Zhao Feng, are you not going to appear at the sacred True Dragon gathering? Zhao Yufei's eyes turned as she started to search for the figures of the geniuses present. She didn't believe that with Zhao Feng's talent, he wouldn't have the right to participate in the sacred True Dragon gathering unless he wasn't interested. Thus, Zhao Yufei started to search. The Northern Star stand had a radius of 10 miles and several hundred geniuses were scattered around. It wasn't easy to find one person as there were many camps blocking one's vision. Zhao Yufei bit her teeth and walked out of the Heavenly Yuan clan's camp and started to search. Sister Yufei, who are you looking for? I'll go with you. Mo Tianyi smiled faintly and walked over. In the clan, the two were disciples of sovereigns and their statuses were close. At a certain moment, Zhao Yufei's footsteps suddenly stopped when she reached the Canopy Great Country's camp. Mo Tianyi's here. Who's that girl? She's so beautiful and she's with Mo Tianyi. Prince Jin and the other geniuses were dazed and had the feeling that a goddess was looking at them. What's wrong, sister? Did you find the person? Mo Tianyi was slightly curious. He only had a slight impression of Prince Jin amongst the geniuses of the Canopy Great Country, but it wasn't worth mentioning. Zhao Yufei's eyes scanned across the Canopy Great Country's 10 stars and unnoticeably stopped on a blue-haired youth. Apart from that, she also looked at Lu Qinxin with surprise. The latter's looks were rare. Let's go look elsewhere. Zhao Yufei smiled sweetly, causing all the flowers in the world to lose their splendor, causing all the men present to lose their souls. At this moment, she seemed to have received some good news and was overjoyed. Okay. Mo Tianyi faintly nodded his head and in the instant he turned around, he glanced at the blue-haired youth. Zhao Yufei's minute movements didn't escape Mo Tianyi's powerful eyes. Who's that blue-haired youth? Sister Yufei doesn't want to disturb him. Although Mo Tianyi was curious, he didn't ask. This should be her secret. Prince Jin and the other geniuses watched the two leave and felt flattered. After all, they were able to receive the attention of the legend of the northern continent, Mo Tianyi. She knows Zhao Feng. Of the 10 stars, only Lu Qinxin noticed Zhao Yufei's minute movements. Chapter 341. 5 days later. More and more people gathered on the Northern Star stand. The geniuses of the northern continent had all gathered here. The Heavenly Yuan clan, the 3 great countries, the other strong countries. The entire northern continent has arrived. Princess Linyue's eyes scanned across the crowd. Although she was the princess of a great country, she had the heart of a man and knew the geniuses of the northern continent like the back of her hand. On the canopy great country's side. Prince Jean faintly nodded his head. Most of them have arrived. We're just waiting for the Northern Star stand to connect to the Sacred Alliance. Once the Northern Star stand connected to the Sacred Alliance's teleportation array, it meant that the Sacred True Dragon Gathering was about to begin. Over the past few days, the clans had sparred and probed each other. Some unfamiliar geniuses would be challenged in order to find out who they were. Therefore, Zhang Yuyue, Zhao Yufei and a few other geniuses had all sparred. What was surprising was that many of the new geniuses had unimaginably high battle power. Zhang Yuyue's mastery of the sword was shocking. Several people of the same cultivation and even a peak true human rank that challenged her were slain in one sword. Her opponents were all slain in one sword. What terrifying sword intent! Such an extreme sword style. Tian Yunji saw Zhang Yuyue's mastery of the sword and couldn't help but take a cold breath. No one doubted that she would be able to become one of the 10,000 sword clans' top 2 spots. After all, Zhang Yuyue had once stood at the peak of the 13 clans and comprehended sword intent at a much younger age than Xia Xianshang. Back at the 13 clan alliance, even Zhao Feng had almost lost to her. Zhao Yufei's performance was also impressive as she easily defeated several probing opponents. As her bloodline awakened, her speed of gathering true force and recovery was shocking and she even had explosive power. What was worth mentioning was that the second-ranked genius of the Purple Rising Great Country, whose strength was close to Prince Jean, was defeated by Zhao Yufei. Apart from that, Tian Yunji and Princess Linyue both issued challenges to the legendary genius, Xin Wuheng. The result was that Tian Yunji was defeated by Xin Wuheng in 10 moves. The result of Princess Linyue's challenge was the same as the previous time. She fought a lily and was unable to force Xin Wuheng to use a second hand. This Xin Wuheng is using only one hand to deal with me. Unfortunately, I can't use my trump card so easily. Princess Linyue's phoenix eyes roamed and she stared at Xin Wuheng frequently. She was unwilling to accept this. However, Xin Wuheng sat cross-legged with his eyes closed, completely ignoring her. It was a pity. In the past few days, Zhao Feng had been sitting cross-legged in meditation and had missed many exciting battles. At this moment, he was wholeheartedly cultivating and comprehending. He didn't even notice the arrival of Zhao Yufei, Xin Wuheng, and the others. Rumble. Thunder roared in the sky, and it suddenly began to rain heavily. Some of the geniuses were caught off guard and were drenched. Thunderstorm. Zhao Feng slowly opened his eyes. He was in the middle of cultivating and comprehending. He touched the rich lightning yuan qi in the sky, and it was very familiar. After nearly 2 months of hard work, Zhao Feng's cultivation had improved greatly. On one hand, his cultivation was high and his senses were strong, allowing him to capture the heaven-earth lightning yuan qi. Furthermore, there was a weird source of true spirit sealed within Zhao Feng's body that came from the water-moon pirate. That source of true spirit was close to the true lord rank and a strand of it could greatly increase Zhao Feng's comprehension and foundation. Unknowingly, Zhao Feng's cultivation was close to the late stages of the true human rank. Zhao Feng's lightning inheritance and ancient ice soul had both reached the peak, but he was blocked by a higher mountain. How long until the sacred true dragon gathering? Zhao Feng's eyes scanned across the crowd. Chapter leader, you're finally awake. The Northern Star stand will be able to connect to the Sacred Alliance in about 10 days. Jiang Sanfeng answered. Xin Wuheng. Song Yuyue. Yu Fei. Zhao Feng scanned the crowd and found quite a few pleasant surprises. A pleased smile appeared on his face. At the same time, on the 10,000 Origin clan's side, Xian Wuhan, who was sitting cross-legged, suddenly sensed something. Xian Wuhan, we meet again. A voice sounded in Xian Wuhan's mind. Xian Wuhan was slightly startled as he opened his deep and boundless eyes. His eyes were mysterious and contained a hint of age. It wasn't something a younger generation member should have. Back then, I knew that we would meet again sooner or later. Xian Wuhan's expression was a little shocked, but there was also a little emotional sigh. Back at the Genius Summit, he had suppressed his cultivation by one level and fought to a draw with Zhao Feng before decisively running away from the cloud area. At this moment, a weird scene appeared on the Northern Star stand. Two youths sitting cross-legged opened their eyes at almost the same time and sighed with complex expressions. Chapter Leader Zhao, you know Xian Wuhan? Jiang Sanfeng said in surprise. At the same time, Princess Linyue noticed this detail. Zhao Feng and Xian Wuhan's eyes looked at each other with joy and happiness. Looks like I've still underestimated this youth. Just based on his friendship with Xian Wuhan that he hasn't met in a long time, Princess Linyue's eyes twinkled. These details also fell into the eyes of many geniuses. Zhao Feng. Losing to you in the past forced me to cultivate bitterly and sharpen my sword even more. I'll use the sword in my hand to take back that humiliating time. Song Yuyue's cold voice sounded. Her gaze seemed to contain a sword that could pierce through space and made the nearby geniuses' hearts go cold. Shua shua. Many gazes landed on Zhao Feng's face, filled with shock and curiosity. What kind of secrets did this youth have? Even the powerful Song Yuyue had lost to him. Even the unfathomable Xian Wuhan had reunited with him. This sacred true dragon gathering has given me many surprises and opponents. Zhao Feng's smile was filled with expectation. He wasn't scared of fighting Song Yuyue and was even looking forward to fighting Xian Wuhan, a legendary genius. The rain was still falling from the sky. Yu Fei. Zhao Feng's voice once again sounded in Zhao Yufei's mind. The two started to communicate through mental energy. The smile on Zhao Yufei's face was more than in the past 2 months. All of this fell into Mo Tiany's eyes. For some reason, Mo Tiany suddenly became interested in the blue-haired youth. Wei Yinqi, go test that blue-haired brat's strength. Mo Tiany messaged a core disciple behind him. Yes. Wei Yinqi was slightly flattered. The competition for the sacred true dragon gathering was fierce, and although he was at the peak true mystic rank, he was only ranked 9th. A prodigy like Mo Tiany was a legendary genius of the northern continent and the disciple of a sovereign. To Wei Yinqi, he was out of reach. Soon, Wei Yinqi walked towards the Canopy Great Countries group. Core disciple of the Heavenly Yuan clan. The expressions of Prince Jin and company changed. The 10 great clans were existences that even the 3 great countries could only look up to. He, this brother Zhao Feng seems to be mysterious and his background isn't simple. This Wei's heart is itching and I want to challenge you. Wei Yinqi's words were very courteous. Zhao Feng's eyebrows furrowed slightly. He didn't like this kind of random challenge. You're here to test me again. He slowly stood up and decided to move his body. Zhao Feng's god spiritual eye quickly scanned over Wei Yinqi and could estimate his strength. This person's cultivation was the same as Prince Jin, but he didn't have a bloodline inheritance. His skills might be more profound, but his overall strength should be on the same level as Prince Jin or slightly weaker. Those below the true mystic rank could be killed by Zhao Feng in one glance. That's good too. The Mystic Flower Treasured Bible has merged with the Lightning Inheritance and I've comprehended many things. I'll use him. Zhao Feng stood up. At this moment in time, many peak geniuses of the northern continent looked over, including Princess Linyue, Xin Wuheng, San Yue, and Mo Tianyi. Brother Zhao's age and cultivation are both lower than mine. This way will let you have 10 moves first. Wei Yinqi had a smile on his face. He didn't understand Zhao Feng. Zhao Feng's age, cultivation and experience were all higher and he obviously didn't want to bully the young. Sure. Zhao Feng didn't reject. Chiu. The moment he finished speaking, an azure bolt of lightning flashed through the air, and Zhao Feng vanished. Not good. Wei Yinqi's eyes blurred as he felt a numbing sensation coming from his side and cursed in his heart. He instinctively circulated his qi of true spirit and a wave of true spirit swept out in all directions and sent anything that came close to him flying. Pew! The phantom of lightning that had just appeared behind Wei Yinqi was instantly shaken away. This brat's speed is weird. He let out a breath and blamed himself for underestimating the enemy. Wei Yinqi didn't realize that everyone's eyes were wide open as they stared in the direction of his head. Teleportation lightning step. A phantom figure appeared above Wei Yinqi's head as if it had teleported out of thin air. What? Wei Yinqi was stunned. The numbing sensation on his head was so clear that he could even see a pair of footprints in the corner of his eyes. Break! He bellowed in shock, his claw unleashing a dazzling azure blur as he lunged at Zhao Feng. In the end, he missed. The silhouette above his head disappeared in a flash. Teleportation lightning step. A blue-haired figure surrounded in lightning appeared behind him. Not only that, but the figure of the youth was also closely attached to him. Chains of lightning wrapped around him. The blue-haired youth's back was against him as thick chains of lightning wrapped around Wei Yinqi. Arg! Wei Yinqi's body trembled as he was wrapped by the layers of lightning and couldn't resist at all. Plop! A breath or two later, Wei Yinqi's body was burnt black and he fell to the ground, giving off black smoke. At this point in time, the blue-haired youth's back was still facing him and a weird smile appeared on his face which made the spectators tremble. Even with Wei Yinqi's peak true human rank strength, he's being toyed with by this brat. What terrifying speed! He's merged with the essence of lightning and there's so much more to it. On the canopy great country's side, Prince Jin's mouth dropped open as cold sweat appeared on his back. Wei Yinqi's strength isn't much weaker than mine. Just how much strength is this Zhao Feng hiding? In reality, Zhao Feng didn't hide much of his strength at the capital struggle. It was just that he had been improving the whole time. Not bad. Mo Tianyi took back his gaze. He had roughly understood Zhao Feng's strength and no longer had any interest on his face. Chapter 342. Zhao Feng's speed and lightning skills made the geniuses click their tongues. Even some of the leaders were wary. Although Wei Yinqi was ranked 9th amongst the core disciples of the Heavenly Yuan clan, he could be ranked 1st or 2nd in other strong countries. Such an elite had been defeated by Zhao Feng in an instant. In the process of defeating Wei Yinqi, Zhao Feng indeed didn't use any moves. His usage of lightning had reached a godly level. This was due to the merging of the essence of the mystic flower treasured Bible which made the core of the lightning inheritance more practical. He doesn't just specialize in bloodline techniques. This makes him hard to deal with. Princess Linyue's expression became solemn. She finally realized that the strongest star of the canopy great country wasn't Prince Jin or Tian Yunji but this unfathomable blue-haired youth like Xin Wuheng. On the Heavenly Yuan clan's side. Brother Mo, that brat's pretty interesting. His strength might be close to Xin Wuheng and Xia Xinshang's. A true mystic rank yellow-faced man said solemnly. The yellow-faced man was ranked 2nd amongst the core disciples of the Heavenly Yuan clan, just below Mo Tianyi. Just then, the yellow-faced man had seriously watched the battle between Zhao Feng and Wei Yinqi and was surprised. Zhao Feng was like child's play and used his speed and lightning skills to defeat Wei Yinqi without even using his hands. Coincidentally, he was familiar with Wei Yunqi and knew the latter's battle style. Unless the opponent had overwhelming power, he wouldn't be defeated so quickly. This Xiao Feng still young and is much weaker than Xia Xiansheng and Xian Wuheng. His strength might be close to Princess Linyue's level. On the stage of the sacred True Dragon Gathering, just relying on speed would result in an ugly death. With his strength, he'll only be able to reach the top 50 and that'll depend on luck. Mo Tianyi shook his head faintly. The corner of his mouth curled into a cold smile. Putting aside Zhao Feng, even prodigies like Xia Xiansheng and Xian Wuheng had lost to him. Mo Tianyi stood with his hands behind his back, looking down at the geniuses with a faint sense of loneliness. The yellow-faced man was slightly startled, but then he smiled and said, "That's right, I misjudged Senior Brother Mo's level. In the northern continent, Senior Brother Mo is already invincible." Mo Tianyi's level and vision were far beyond their level. After all, he was already standing at the peak of the northern continent's geniuses. My true opponents are Yu Tianhao, Tantai Lanyue, and the other overwhelming prodigies. Mo Tianyi gazed into the distance with a flickering light in his eyes. At this moment, there was a rare passion and fighting spirit in his eyes. Senior Brother is talking about the Azure Flower Continent's 5 overwhelming prodigies. The yellow-faced man and the people around him could not help but suck in a breath of cold air. 5 peerless prodigies. The core disciples of the Heaven Yuan sect were shocked as they looked at Mo Tianyi with even more respect and admiration. At this moment, Mo Tianyi was right in front of them, but he gave them the feeling that he was so far away. The 5 overwhelming prodigies were the 5 legends that stood at the peak of the Azure Flower Continent. All of them were blessed by the heavens and could be said to be the prodigies of the heavens. There were diviners who said that the 5 overwhelming prodigies would all have unparalleled potential in the future. The 5 overwhelming prodigies are the middle continent's Yu Tianhao, the eastern continent's Tantai Lanyue, the western continent's Shiqing Tian, the southern continent's Taiyun Xuangzi, and the extreme north's goddess Bing Wei. The core disciples of the Heaven Yuan sect had all heard of them. When these 5 were mentioned, everyone's heart jumped. How strong are these peerless geniuses? Zhao Yufei couldn't help but be curious. Very, very strong. So strong that 99% of the geniuses of the northern continent can't even take one move from them. Especially the first place of the last sacred True Dragon Gathering, Yu Tianhao. Mo Tianyi took a deep breath and clenched his fists, lightly trembling. Even now, the scene of the last sacred True Dragon Gathering was still replaying in his mind. The yellow-faced man didn't say anything. He had also participated in the last sacred True Dragon Gathering. At that time, only 3 of the 5 overwhelming prodigies were born. Both him and Mo Tianyi had lost badly. Brother Mo, you weren't even the head disciple back then and your strength has risen dramatically in 10 years. You can at least reach the top 10 in this sacred True Dragon Gathering and have the right to compete with these overwhelming prodigies. The yellow-faced man laughed. The rain was still falling and the geniuses gathered in the Northern Star stand had stopped sparring. At this point in time, the scouting of the geniuses of the northern continent had basically finished. The geniuses discussed and the topic moved from the geniuses of the northern continent to the geniuses of the entire continent. 5 overwhelming prodigies. Zhao Feng occasionally heard a few voices. Even Prince Jin, Jiang Sanfeng and company would occasionally mention the names of the 5 overwhelming prodigies. Time passed by slowly. The day of the Northern Star stand connecting to the sacred zone was approaching. On this day, suddenly, a cold current surged over from the northern region. The vast and varied essence energy of the world froze for some reason. Many of the people present suddenly shivered. What a strong coldness! Zhao Feng felt a cold current and couldn't help but raise his head and look into the distance with his left eye. A cold current and an invisible cold might surged over from afar, toppling mountains and overturning seas. On the Northern Star stand, Some true lord ranks and even those at the half-step origin core realm sensed it and stood up. Xiuhu, a beautiful ball of blue ice light flew through the air. From afar, it looked like a disk made of ice crystals, causing a freezing current to rush towards the northern star stand. The speed of the blue light was almost 10 times faster than the Iron Blood religion's Golden Spear Blood Dragon sedan. In the blink of an eye, the blue light carried more than a dozen figures and landed on the northern star stand. Wu, the terrifying cold air currents scattered everywhere. Wu, the blood of the geniuses present almost froze and some of them screamed but couldn't make a sound. See! In an instant, the entire northern star stand turned into a sparkling ice field. The rain from the past few days had all turned into ice and snow. Zhao Feng's blood and qi of true spirit seemed to freeze and his limbs went cold. Luckily, the faint blue blood within his body seemed to be excited and started to merge with the coldness. Not many of the geniuses from the northern continent are good enough. A cold female voice came from the dissipating blue ice light. When the blue light faded, more than a dozen figures appeared. Most of them were young men and women. The one at the front was a beauty in white who held an ice-bone staff and had a phoenix king crown on her head. Her aura was otherworldly and she seemed to be a queen of ice and snow. The ice-bone staff in her hand lightly trembled and the coldness that covered the sky started to fade. Wu, the true lord ranks present all acted as if they had been pardoned. Greetings, sovereign. Greetings, mystic ice queen. The true lord ranks of the heavenly Yuan clan and the 3 great countries were full of respect and bowed. Wherever the ice queen, who was holding the ice bone, stood, 10 miles of the North Star platform turned into an ice region. This was merely the cold air of the extreme north that she had intentionally or unintentionally dispersed when she flew over. If this mystic ice queen really wanted to attack, everything within 10 miles of the northern star stand would be instantly frozen. At that time, apart from the deputy patriarch of the Iron Blood religion and a few other experts at the half-step origin core realm, no one would be able to escape. Zhao Feng took in a cold breath. His eyesight was the strongest and he saw everything clearly. The mystic ice queen didn't purposely release any coldness, but she still turned the entire northern star stand into ice. Dispense with the formalities. The mystic ice queen faintly waved her hand and only replied to a few elders from the heavenly Yuan clan, 10,000 origin clan and 10,000 sword clan. What made the experts feel weird was that the mystic ice queen even said a few words to Timo. Timo seemed to know the mystic ice queen and was respectful. Mystic ice queen. This is a legendary sovereign at the origin core realm. In the corner, Beimuo's heart shook and he found it hard to breathe. He felt his blood and qi of true spirit freeze and he couldn't feel his limbs. True Lord Tiexiao's eyes were filled with shock and respect. He didn't even have the courage to go up and greet the mystic ice queen. The mystic ice queen is a sovereign from the extreme north. There's a teleportation platform there. Why would she come here? That's right, why would someone from the mystic ice palace come here? After a short uproar, discussions broke out below. The mystic ice palace was one of the 10 great clans like the heavenly Yuan clan. This clan was located in the extreme north and could barely be seen as a part of the northern continent. However, the mystic ice palace rarely interacted with the other forces of the northern continent and were on their own. This time, the mystic ice palace came to the northern star stand. The mystic ice palace was on the same level as the heavenly Yuan clan and had 10 geniuses. Of the 10 geniuses, the majority were females and the minority were males. The top disciple of the mystic ice palace was a beautiful ice beauty. Her eyes were cold, and her skin seemed to be made of smooth snow jade. It was perfect and bone-chilling. Goddess Bing Wei. Mo Tiany's voice was hoarse as he spat out these 4 words. Goddess Bing Wei. One of the 5 overwhelming prodigies. The hearts of the geniuses of the northern continent shook as they inspected the icy beauty. Goddess Bing Wei sat on the spot with a half-transparent coldness around her. Even the two true mystic rank geniuses didn't dare to come close. Shua! Goddess Bing Wei's cold eyes suddenly scanned across the geniuses. Instantly, the geniuses felt their minds freeze and couldn't say a single word. Their chi of true spirit seemed to be frozen. What a terrifying girl! Even those at the peak true mystic rank of the older generation felt a coldness that made their hearts go cold. They couldn't resist it. All those under the true lord rank were pressured by Goddess Bing Wei's coldness. Even someone as strong as Mo Tianyi clenched his teeth and resisted the coldness. Xia Xianshang and Xian Wuhan couldn't resist it head-on and could only look at Goddess Bing Wei's beauty. The 5 overwhelming prodigies are too strong. How can this be the power of the younger generation? Zhao Feng felt the pressure of a true lord rank and obviously couldn't take it head-on. At this moment, he finally understood what blood-haired Tianma had said to him. Tianma didn't expect him to be at the top. Reaching the top 100 would be enough and reaching the top 50 would be good. Top 20 was impossible, and as for top 10 or first, that was just wishful thinking. Goddess Bing Wei scanned the crowd but didn't say anything. Bing Wei, how is it? The mystic ice queen smiled. No opponent. My only opponent in the continent is Yu Tianhao. Goddess Bing Wei took back her gaze and was slightly disappointed. If they had known earlier they wouldn't have come to the northern continent. Chapter 343. The terrifying strength of the overwhelming prodigy made the hearts of the geniuses of the northern continent tremble as they were unable to block the cold aura. Only Mo Tianyi could barely block it. At this point in time, waves of shock swept through the hearts of the geniuses of the northern continent as their confidence and fighting spirit received a heavy blow. In reality, the northern continent had Mo Tianyi, Xia Xianshang and other peak geniuses as well as Xian Wuhan, Zhang Yue and Zhao Feng. In other words, Mo Tianyi's generation wasn't weak and had reached the peak of previous generations. However, they were both lucky and unlucky. At this time, the Azure Flower continent was welcoming the peak of dozens of generations, or else the chances of the Heaven's legacy inheritance connecting wouldn't be so high. Overwhelming prodigies usually only appear once in several generations. For example, the Sword Saint Yi Wuxia, the Three-Eyed Sky Sovereign, the Scarlet Moon Religion Patriarch etc. But in this generation, 5 overwhelming prodigies have appeared at the same time. Blood-hair-colored Tianma's eyes twinkled with expectation and worry. Every peerless prodigy was able to suppress several eras. But in this generation, 5 had appeared at once. Especially this generation's Yu Tianhao, who was said to have suppressed dozens of generations and surpassed the Sword Saint Yi Wuxia, leading an unprecedented era. She just used a special method to merge the coldness of her true spirit into the air and use a mental energy secret technique to release it. Anyone who looks at her will be able to sense her power. Then, based on the clash of spiritual energy, she can determine the opponent in a certain area. Zhao Feng calmed down and analyzed. Through this secret technique, Goddess Bing Wei concluded that no one in the northern continent was her match. The invisible clash of spirit and qi activity proved everything. Be it Zhao Feng, Xian Wuhan, Princess Linyue, Prince Jin, Zhang Yue and company, they all lost. If it was Zhao Feng, he wouldn't need to go through so much trouble. With a sweep of his god's spiritual eye, all existences under the origin core realm, including their bloodlines and inheritances, were all revealed. But Zhao Feng didn't dare to do this unless he had the strength of an overwhelming prodigy like Goddess Bing Wei. Late-stage true human rank cultivation, a powerful bloodline and a pure skill that surpasses all the geniuses here, including me. Zhao Feng carefully opened his god's spiritual eye and analyzed Goddess Bing Wei's strength. First was his cultivation. Goddess Bing Wei was at the late stages of the true human rank and was close to the peak, surpassing all the younger generation present. Secondly, it was his bloodline, which was also top-notch, stronger than Prince Jin, Wang Xiaoguai, and the others. Only Mo Tianyi's art purity was close to hers. After all, they were both head disciples of the top 10 sections. The previous head disciples of the Profound Ice Palace were all very strong. This was because the Mystic Ice Palace controlled one of the 4 great inheritances, the Mystic Ice Inheritance, which could be opened once every few decades. Apparently Goddess Bing Wei obtained some of the essence of the Profound Ice Inheritance. Jiang Sanfeng couldn't help but sigh with envy. Zhao Feng had also heard of this. Although he had obtained the strongest inheritance of the Floating Crest Palace and the essence of the Water Moon Treasury, it wasn't even worth mentioning compared to the Mystic Ice Inheritance. To be titled an overwhelming prodigy, any one of them had great fortune that surpassed Zhao Feng by more than 10 times. Maybe I won't be able to reach the top in this sacred true dragon gathering, but being born in this great era is a blessing. The most important thing is that I can connect to even stronger inheritances. Zhao Feng's heart calmed down and his expression became cold. In next to no time, he closed his eyes and started to meditate and comprehend. Tianma saw Zhao Feng's change in heart and couldn't help but nod his head. This Zhao Feng's mentality is very good. Because of Goddess Bing Wei's appearance, the overwhelming prodigy's power had caused many geniuses' emotions to fluctuate greatly. Some fell to the lowest point, some were filled with hatred and unwillingness, etc. However, Zhao Feng's mentality was very good and accepted reality before returning to normal. At the same time on the 10,000 Origin Clan side. Even if it's me, it's still very small to get first. I'm really looking forward to this era. Xin Wuheng's normal face was expressionless. His heart hadn't wavered at all, as if he had experienced countless ups and downs in life. Xin Wuheng also closed his eyes and immersed himself in his own world. Time passed by slowly. The geniuses on the Northern Star stand were silent. Everyone was waiting. 3 days later. The surface of the Northern Star stand's white crystalline stone platform was surrounded by a layer of sparkling white light. At the start, the white light was slightly dim but it became brighter and brighter. At a certain moment, when at the center of the Northern Star stand, a layer of white light condensed on the pure black stone door, filling the entire door. The Northern Star Gate has opened. The sacred true dragon gathering is about to begin. Everyone, get ready. Led this great era, the Northern Star stand broke out in cheers. There were several hundred geniuses gathered here. This was the first time most of them were participating in the sacred true dragon gathering and their hearts were filled with excitement. Maybe not everyone could compete for the top 10 or top 100, but to most geniuses, being able to display their skills on the stage where all the top geniuses of the continent gathered and blossomed for a moment was enough to die with no regrets. When the pure black door at the center gave off a white light that became brighter and brighter. At the end, the white light covered the entire Northern Star stand as if welcoming a new era. Everyone of the continent. The sacred true dragon gathering is about to begin. Through the stone door you will be able to enter the ancient arena. A majestic voice came from the ancient and pure black stone door. This voice was extremely bright and seemed to come from the other side of time and space. Let's go. The Mystic Ice Queen waved her hand and the representatives of the Mystic Ice Palace all passed through the white light. Shwa! 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 These figures would instantly disappear the moment they touched the stone door. When the white light on the Northern Star stand became brighter and brighter. This is, everyone found that the bottom of their feet had started to form an array. When the entire Northern Star stand suddenly shook and released a white light that shot into the sky. This. What's this sign? The hearts of the Mystic Ice Queen, the elders of the Heavenly Yuan clan and blood-hair-colored Tiamat and company shook. In that instant, the white light soared into the sky, faintly forming the silhouette of a huge dragon. At the same time, in the Eastern continent, the Western continent, the Northern continent, the Southern continent, and even the central continent, an illusory dragon image appeared in the sky. 5 sparkling illusionary dragons entangled in the air above the green flower continent, tearing at each other. However, the continent was vast and the people on the northern star stand were like specks of dust that couldn't see the entire situation. However, just this gigantic illusory dragon silhouette alone was enough to shock everyone present. This is, genius dragon blessing. Oh my god, such a large amount of genius dragon blessing. Only in the eras of the sword Saint Wuxia and the Scarlet Moon religion patriarch had 1 or 2 genius dragons. The 5-star platforms on the continent were in an uproar, causing an uproar. If the northern star stand can have a genius dragon blessing, then the middle continent and eastern continent definitely won't lose out. Blood hair-colored Timo's expression changed dramatically. He felt that this era wasn't the same as before. According to his guesses. In this era, there were 5 overwhelming geniuses, especially Yu Tianhao, who was said to have suppressed dozens of eras. His dragon of fate could only be strong. Blood hair-colored Timo's guess wasn't wrong. In the central continent, the fate dragon was the largest, and the light it gave off was the most brilliant. It soared into the sky void, faintly giving off an aura of supremacy and arrogance. What's the theory behind the aura of genius dragon blessing? Under Zhao Feng's curiosity, he opened his god's spiritual eye and looked through the layers of space. His god's spiritual eye was circulated to the maximum and entered a profound level. Shwa! His mental energy consciousness suddenly leapt out of his body and flew into the sky. At an unimaginably high level, Zhao Feng's consciousness saw the 5 genius dragons. Canopy Great Country. A 6-sided tall tower that was as black as the night sky stood in the deep mountains. This was the legendary and mysterious 6 Warlock Divine Tower. It was the Mount Tai of the world of divination. On the 49th floor of the 6 Warlock Divine Tower stood a few figures dressed as priests. At the very front stood an ancient and tall old man. A black cloak that was as tranquil as the night covered most of his face. The people of the world could only see a pair of eyes that were as deep as the starry night. Although they seemed turbid, there was a kind of wisdom that came from the vicissitudes of life. 36 priests sat cross-legged behind the mysterious elder. Strands of silver light appeared on their bodies and merged with the endless void. When at this moment in time, a screen of silver light appeared in the sky above the 6 Warlock Divine Tower. Within the screen of light, there were 5 genius dragons that were baring their fangs and claws. They were located in the middle, east, west, south, and north. Meow! A weird cat's cry sounded through the air. A silver-black cat that was around the size of 2 adult palms appeared on the mysterious elder's shoulder. This silver-black cat had a lazy expression and squinted its eyes as it stared into the air. It raised its hand, and 5 ancient copper coins appeared in its palm. Ding! Ding! Sage, do the 5 dragons of Providence represent the 5 peerless geniuses? A priestess with a face as beautiful as the night moon had a respectful expression on her face. Not exactly. The 5 genius dragons don't just represent the 5 overwhelming prodigies, but the combination of countless geniuses across the 5 zones. Of course, the 5 overwhelming prodigies each lead this generation, so they can indeed represent the 5 genius dragons. The sage smiled and said. His eyes were still staring into the air as he murmured, the chance of the heavens' legacy inheritance connecting with the continent has increased to 20%. However, there are still all sorts of variables in the mysteries of the heavens that push this great era towards an unknown direction. Look, what's that? Heavens! The priest suddenly exclaimed in surprise. The silver-black cat in front of the sage also stared at the screen of light with bulging eyes as if it was choking. A faintly discernible eye of heaven appeared above the 5 dragons of Providence. The eye of heaven appeared in the sky and coldly looked down at the 5 genius Providence dragons. All the priests of the 6 Warlock Divine Tower were stunned by this scene. However, the eye of heaven only appeared for a breath or two before disappearing, as if it was just an illusion. Chapter 344. The eye of heaven's appearance seemed to be an illusion. It coldly looked down at the 5 dragon blessings. The 5 dragon blessings were enormous and bared their fangs and claws. They didn't even notice what was happening above them. Maybe the eye of heaven didn't have the power to fight against the dragon blessings even though it could see through heaven and earth. Sage, what was that scene just now? The pure and flawless priestess who was as beautiful as the moon turned pale. The priests behind her were full of confusion and confusion. One had to know that the 5 dragon blessings corresponded to the 5 overwhelming prodigies. Each of them had unparalleled power that could suppress the geniuses of several generations. Just now, an eye of heaven had appeared, and it was looking down on the 5 dragon blessings. It seemed to be above the 5 dragon blessings. It was born 2 years ago. The sage's tall figure stood at the top of the tower and his voice was calm. His turbid eyes were filled with a mysterious and empty color. Could it be that a prodigy that can surpass the 5 dragon blessings has appeared on this continent? The high priests were shocked. If this was true, then the owner of the eye of heaven was too terrifying. You all saw the scene just now. The eye of heaven hasn't interacted with the 5 dragon blessings yet. This means that it hasn't reached a level where it can threaten the 5 overwhelming prodigies, let alone surpass them. The wise man smiled. Then what did the scene just now mean? The priestess who was as pure and holy as the moonlight could not help but feel curious. Even now, she was still stunned by the scene just now. The sage closed his eyes tiredly and didn't say anything else. Northern Star Stand. A massive genius blessing dragon soared into the sky, causing the entire Northern Star Stand to glow with a brilliant light. A complex and mysterious array appeared under everyone's feet. When suddenly, the sparkling light that covered the entire Northern Star Stand brightened to the extreme and let out a humming sound. In the next instant. Shwa! Shwa! Swish! The numerous figures on the Northern Star Stand disappeared at a speed visible to the naked eye, leaving behind a flash of white light. Even Zhao Feng was covered by a white light and disappeared. A breath or two later. The entire Northern Star Stand was dead silent, without a single person in sight. After a moment of spinning and losing his balance of gravity, Zhao Feng's feet sank and he landed on the ground. Whoosh! 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 At the same time, rays of white light lit up the surroundings, and figures from the Northern Star Stand appeared. Thump! Some of the inexperienced newbies fell from the sky in a panic, causing them to feel dizzy. Oh my God! This is the primordial arena. A wave of shocked gasps came from all around. Zhao Feng's gaze swept across the surroundings, and his heart trembled deeply. This was a huge and majestic ancient arena. Every brick and stone contained the precipitation of time and emitted a mysterious and ancient aura. It was as if they were in an ancient mythological era. The floor of the arena was made of a mysterious and rare silver-green material. It wasn't made of metal or stone, and the markings on its surface were simple and unadorned. However, its hardness was comparable to a spirit-ranked divine weapon. The entire arena was 100 miles wide, and it shot into the sky, competing with the clouds and sunlight. It was grand and magnificent. The surroundings of the primordial Colosseum were even more magnificent and earth-shattering works. Surrounding the arena were mountains that towered into the clouds. At the edge of the mountains, there were many majestic stone statues. These stone statues ranged from tens of feet to hundreds of feet tall. The 10 tallest statues were hundreds of feet tall, and some were even close to 1,000 feet tall. Every statue was lifelike, majestic and majestic. There were beasts, humans, aliens, and all sorts of strange shapes. It was as if they contained divine power from the ancient times. Looking at them, one's heart would feel an indescribable sense of respect. Especially the 10 tallest, heaven-raising stone statues. They seemed to stand side by side with the heavens and earth, majestic and boundless. They all had different expressions. Some were emotionless, some were domineering, some were carefree, and some had a sinister smile. It was as if they were illustrating the glory of a lost legend. The tens of thousands of stone statues piled up to form a boundless stone statue mountain that surrounded the ancient Colosseum. At first glance, the majestic divine power that covered the heavens and earth attacked the soul's vision. It was as if there were gods, demons, and ghosts watching the ancient arena's every move, adding a solemn feeling to it. With the current manpower, I'm afraid it would be difficult to recreate such a grand project. Zhao Feng was shocked. Especially the surrounding, stone statue mountain that surrounded the grand arena, as if it was continuing the ancient legend. Suddenly, Zhao Feng's god's spiritual eye had a strange throbbing and reaction. The majestic stone statues gave him the illusion that they had intelligence, as if they contained some mysterious power of nothingness. Zhao Feng shook his head. These stone statues were definitely lifeless objects. The ancient Colosseum has existed since ancient times. Its history is even as old as the continent itself. Even the 10 great sects of the continent are unable to trace its origins. Blood-hair-colored Jiama stood beside Zhao Feng. Soon, Jiang Sanfeng, Dai Lan, and Dong Shui also gathered around. In a short span of 10 breaths, tens of thousands of figures appeared in the ancient arena. The geniuses from every region of the continent entered the ancient arena at the same time. It took them a while to react and regroup with their respective factions. Middle continent, Eastern continent, Western continent, Southern continent, Northern continent. The geniuses of the 5 continents were sent to the 5 areas of the ancient arena. Boom! Above the arena, an oval-shaped ancient golden platform floated in midair, with a diameter of about 10 to 20 feet. Compared to the enormous ancient arena, this stage was like a sesame seed. Shwa! 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 Suddenly, a few figures appeared on the ancient golden pedestal. They were all dressed differently. The common point was that they all had an aura that seemed to suppress the heavens and earth. Their every action merged with the heaven-earth Yuan Qi. It's people from the Sacred Alliance. Every sacred true dragon gathering is judged by the Sacred Alliance. The noise below the stage suddenly quieted down. This was because the cultivations of the figures on the golden stage had all surpassed the true lord rank and reached the origin core realm. Amongst them, Zhao Feng saw a mystic-clothed youth who had a majestic aura. It was the mystic sword sovereign from the Rising Dragon auction. Soon, 9 sovereigns at the origin core realm appeared on the golden stage, making the hearts of the geniuses below shake. In the past, the Sacred Alliance would only send 2 or 3 sovereigns at the origin core realm at most. This time, it has only just begun, and there are already 9 of them. Even the Deputy Palace Lord of the Sacred Alliance has appeared. Some of the peak experts of the continent began to discuss in secret. The Deputy Palace Lord of the Sacred Alliance sat in the middle. He was a tall figure with bronze skin and a pair of eyes like orange gold. His hair was like purple and black flames. The most eye-catching thing was the huge black saber on his back. It was domineering and a bit ferocious. It was nearly 2 meters long, and there was a row of nicks at the front. It was actually a broken saber. The bronze-skinned giant sat at the center of the golden stage, as if he was suppressing all the gods and ghosts in the arena. The 2 origin core realms on his left and right had respectful expressions, and they would bow to the Deputy Palace Lord whenever they appeared. Greetings, Dominating Blade Sovereign Lord. The Mystic Ice Queen of the Mystic Ice Palace bowed respectfully to the Deputy Palace Lord. The bronze-skinned giant nodded his head faintly and responded to the sovereigns present. This Deputy Palace Lord has such a terrifying aura. Zhao Feng's god's spiritual eye didn't dare to easily scan the origin core realm, let alone this bronze-skinned giant. According to his understanding, the origin core realm was split into three realms: true human rank, true mystic rank and true lord rank. The true spirit realm was split into three realms: true human rank, true mystic rank and true lord rank. In these three realms, both true human rank and true lord rank were at the true spirit realm. The origin core realm was split into small origin core realm and great origin core realm. Deputy Palace Lord, what kind of organization is the Sacred Alliance? Why do they have so many sovereigns? Doesn't this mean that even the 10 great clans have to bow down to them? Zhao Feng asked curiously. Zhao Feng, there's no point in knowing too much about the Sacred Alliance. Simply put, it's an alliance made up of sovereigns at the origin core realm that maintains the balance of the continent. Its members include sovereigns of the 10 great clans and scattered sovereigns. The blood-hair-colored Tiamat explained. Zhao Feng was surprised that there was such a large organization in the continent. Many of the members of the Sacred Alliance were sovereigns from all over the continent, such as the 10 great clans. Therefore, the decisions of the Sacred Alliance were made by the members for stability. It was very hard for one person to make the decision and threaten the entire continent. In history, if there wasn't the Sacred Alliance, the 10 great clans wouldn't be able to band together to destroy the Scarlet Moon demonic religion. The owner of the Rising Dragon auction you participated in before was the Saint Regent Alliance. The blood-hair-colored Tiamat added. No wonder. Zhao Feng faintly understood that although the continent seemed endless, it was actually a small group of people that decided the fate of everything in the world. The Sacred True Dragon Gathering will officially begin in 3 days. The majestic and boundless voice reverberated throughout the spacious ancient arena. The next 3 days were the preparation phase. Every force and every genius had to be examined by the Sacred Alliance and receive a true dragon token to participate in the competition. During this time, everyone understood the rules of the Sacred True Dragon Gathering. A day later, the geniuses of the Canopy Great Country were examined by the Sacred Alliance and received their true dragon token. Zhao Feng saw that his true dragon token was completely blank and flawless. Most others such as Xian Wuhan, Zhao Yufei, Dai Yi, Bei Moi and company all had the same true dragon token. Of course, there was a small portion whose true dragon token was different. For example, Jiang Sanfeng's true dragon token was bronze and he had reached the top 300 in the last Sacred True Dragon Gathering. Prince Jin's true dragon token was faint silver and had a true dragon carving on it. Mo Tianyi's true dragon token was pure silver and bright. The true dragon carvings on it were extremely lifelike. Zhao Feng inspected Goddess Bing Wei in the distance. Her true dragon token was a dazzling gold, and the dragon carvings on it seemed to be alive. It even started to move and gave off a faint dragon roar. It was as if it was the king of a true dragon, causing the nearby true dragon tokens to tremble. We're all participating in the Sacred True Dragon Gathering, but why are we treated differently? Many geniuses complained. Chapter 345. From the start of the Sacred True Dragon Gathering, everyone's starting point was different. This also proved that there was no absolute fairness in the world. According to Zhao Feng's observation, the True Dragon Token was split into the following grades. White True Dragon Token, no color. Most geniuses had this type. Bronze True Dragon Token, a small number of geniuses that participated in the last Sacred True Dragon Gathering and reached the top several hundred. Silver True Dragon Token, from faint silver to silver. Reached the top 100 in the last Sacred True Dragon Gathering. Gold True Dragon Token, from faint gold to shining gold. Reached the top 20 in the last Sacred True Dragon Gathering. The 5 overwhelming prodigies were an exception. No matter if they participated in the last Sacred True Dragon Gathering or not, their True Dragon Token was a shining gold one. Zhao Feng was the same as most geniuses and obviously had the lowest White True Dragon Token. The Sacred True Dragon Gathering is different to normal competitions. The only thing that determines the winner is the dragon blessing within the true dragon token. If you win, you can steal a portion of your opponent's blessing. If you lose some of your blessing. Jiang Sanfeng explained in a low tone. After understanding the rules, many people were puzzled. Dai Yi asked, if it's like this, isn't it unfair to those who are participating for the first time? This was also what Zhao Feng was thinking. Some peak geniuses such as Mo Tianyi had a true dragon token that had 100 times more dragon blessing than normal geniuses. The 5 overwhelming prodigies had 1,000 times more dragon blessing than normal geniuses. The rules can be said to be fair or unfair. Jiang Sanfeng smiled faintly. Oh. What do you mean? Everyone was curious. If someone with less dragon providence defeats someone with more dragon providence, they can plunder more dragon providence. On the contrary, if someone with more dragon providence defeats someone with less dragon providence, they can only plunder a negligible amount of dragon providence. Jiang Sanfeng explained. As soon as he said this, everyone was enlightened. For example, the 5 overwhelming prodigies had an enormous amount of dragon blessing, 1,000 times more than normal geniuses. Once they lost, they would lose a large amount of blessing. On the contrary, geniuses participating in the sacred true dragon gathering for the first time had very little providence, and having a portion taken was nothing to Goddess Bing Wei or Mo Tianyi. From the looks of it, as long as one has absolute strength, even a newbie participating in the sacred true dragon gathering for the first time can gather a large amount of dragon blessing and fight against the 5 overwhelming prodigies. Zhao Feng secretly nodded. Therefore, the sacred true dragon gathering was both fair and unfair. What was unfair was that everyone's starting point was different. It was just like one's birth. Some people came from royal families, while others came from poor families. But to be fair, as long as you have enough strength, everything can be changed. Thinking up to here, Zhao Feng stared at the empty true dragon token in his hand and his eyes were filled with expectation. Time flew by. 2 days later, all the geniuses from across the continent had received their true dragon tokens. At this moment, the stands around the ancient arena were filled with elites from all over the continent, including some geniuses that weren't fated to participate in the sacred true dragon gathering. Zhao Feng estimated that there were over 100,000 spectators. Furthermore, to watch the sacred true dragon gathering required a large amount of primal crystal stones. It was enough to make those under the true spirit realm go bankrupt. When suddenly, the ground of the ancient arena started to tremble. The mountains of stone statues around the ancient Colosseum were tall and majestic, and they seemed to possess the power of nothingness that could penetrate through heaven and earth. Those stone statues originated from the majestic existences of myths and legends, and they seemed to be watching everything in the arena. The next instant, when in the east, west, south, north, and center regions of the ancient arena, a huge arena appeared in each of them. Each arena had a radius of 10 miles and was bigger than any arena Zhao Feng had seen before. It was large enough to use all kinds of skills and was suitable for long-range weapons. Hua! The 100,000 spectators around the ancient arena burst out with overwhelming enthusiasm. At this moment in time, the blood of every participating genius couldn't help but boil. The sacred true dragon gathering was indeed the focus of the entire continent. Amidst the heated atmosphere, an unparalleled prodigy appeared in each of the 5 regional arenas as they ascended. Eastern Stage, Tantai Lanue Western Stage, Shiqingtian Southern Stage, Taiyun Shuangzi Northern Stage, Goddess Bing Wei Middle Stage, Yutianhao. The 5 overwhelming prodigies all had their true dragon tokens glowing in golden true dragon carvings circling around them. This was especially so for Yutianhao, who had a faint golden dragon blessing around him. His blessing seemed to suppress the entire crowd. In the air above the ancient arena on the oval stage, the upper echelon of the Sacred Alliance looked at each other. Finally, the bronze-skinned giant Deputy Palace Lord faintly nodded his head. The first round of the Sacred True Dragon Gathering Battle of 5 Zones begins today. A loud and powerful voice reverberated throughout the entire ancient arena. According to the rules, the geniuses of the continent would be split into the 5 zones based on the strength of their true dragon token. As for which zone they were split into, apart from the strength of their true dragon token, everything else was random. When Zhao Feng found his true dragon token faintly tremble as it resonated with the northern arena. The true dragon token automatically pointed him in the right direction. Some geniuses didn't believe it and purposely went in the opposite direction. The result was that the hearts of the geniuses that tried to go against it shook. The stone statue mountains around the arena seemed to have a divine intent that made it hard for them to move. Only by following the true dragon token could they be like fish in water. Zhao Feng arrived at the northern arena without any problems. An hour later, the several thousand geniuses were split into the eastern, western, southern, northern and middle arenas. Every region had a peerless prodigy. The northern zone that Zhao Feng was at was Goddess Bing Wei of the extreme northern mystic ice palace. He looked around to see if there were any other acquaintances, who were also assigned to the northern region arena. Wang Xiaoguai, Dong Shui and Bei Moi. Zhao Feng looked around and didn't recognize many people. Wang Xiaoguai also came from the Canopy Great Country. Dong Shui and Zhao Feng both came from the Iron Blood religion. The only unexpected one was Bei Moi. The two of them were once in the same zone. Zhao Feng nodded his head faintly and greeted Bei Moi. Bei Moi's current mood was slightly nervous and excited. Of course, the two of them knew that there were hundreds of geniuses in each region in the competition of the 5 regions. The matches were all random, and not everyone would have the chance to fight. Therefore, the chances of Zhao Feng and Bei Moi meeting each other wasn't high. After all, the ranking of the Sacred True Dragon Gathering was determined by one's true dragon blessing. The Northern Zone competition starts now. Use your true dragon token to go on stage. There was no doubt that a sovereign at the Origin Core realm was the judge of the northern stage. As soon as his words finished, when on the Northern Zone side, a genius true dragon token hummed and guided him onto the stage. My God, my luck is too bad. The early stage true human rank genius was speechless. The first person to go up on the northern stage was Goddess Bing Wei. White true dragon token, my luck is too bad. Goddess Bing Wei's eyebrows furrowed as she inspected her opponent. Being one of the 5 overwhelming prodigies, her dragon blessing was enormous whereas her opponent's dragon blessing was minuscule. Even if she won, she wouldn't be able to take much dragon blessing. She wanted to increase her true dragon token's genius dragon providence, so her opponent had to have a bronze token or above, preferably a silver token or above. Only then would she be able to obtain more genius dragon providence. Limitless Wind Sword. The early stage true human rank genius gritted his teeth and condensed a fast vibrating wind blade on his sword as he slashed towards Goddess Bing Wei. Since he had reached the highest stage of the continent, he wouldn't allow himself to admit defeat. Even if his opponent was an overwhelming prodigy. Every genius present was a prodigy of a certain zone and had the hopes of tens of thousands. Extreme Northern Ice Wind. Goddess Bing Wei pointed out and an ice blue light visible to the naked eye swept over the opponent. CC. The true human rank genius's chi of true spirit instantly condensed and froze on the spot. His mouth was wide open, and the divine weapon was still raised in the air. He stood there like an ice sculpture, motionless. Take him away. The sovereign at the Origin Core realm said, and soon 2 true lord ranks came up to take care of him. When the defeated genius true dragon token split off a wisp of white dragon and merged into Goddess Bing Wei's true dragon token. Goddess Bing Wei's true dragon token glowed gold and didn't change at all. She couldn't help but be disappointed. The opponent was too weak and the blessing she received was negligible. At the same time, the battles in the east, west, south, and central zones had all ended in an instant. The middle zone. Unparalleled under the heavens. Yu Tianhao waved his hand, and an unparalleled palm light swept across the sky like a mysterious aurora. It was domineering, suppressing everything in its path. Bam! His opponent, who was at the peak true human rank, was sent off the stage with one palm. The Eastern Zone. Tantai Lanyue's petite figure floated beautifully in the air. She held a 5-colored glass whip in her hand and whipped her opponent away with one whip. She came from a beast-tamer family and hadn't even sent out her spiritual pet yet. The Western Zone. A giant man, as tall as copper and iron, stood in place like an unshakable mountain. Roar! With a roar, an opponent at the true mystic rank spat out blood and fainted. One of the 5 overwhelming prodigies, Shi Qingtian. The Southern Zone. A 2-headed, 4-armed Siamese was standing on the arena, laughing with a jejia sound. Let me. No, let me do it. The conjoined human had 2 heads. Their faces were filled with excitement as they argued with each other. One body, a total of 2 heads, each controlling a saber and a sword. They were Taiyun Xuangzi, one of the 5 overwhelming prodigies. Heaven Astral 9 Flame Blade. Earth Fiend Ice Soul Sword. The blade and sword shot out and a terrifying aura of fire and ice swept over. The true human rank youth's body trembled and he couldn't even raise his thoughts. Boom! The late-stage true human rank youth screamed as his body was instantly twisted into pieces and blood splattered everywhere. Ah! See! The 100,000 spectators all took in a cold breath. Chapter 346. The geniuses of the Southern Domain Ring were dumbfounded and shivering in fear. Many people exclaimed, and there was even the screams of girls. The tens of thousands of spectators all took in a cold breath. Someone's dead. This Taiyun Xuangzi is so cruel that he killed a genius in front of everyone. The geniuses of the southern stage exclaimed. Following this, many people started to criticize. Judge. Taiyun Xuangzi purposely killed someone, and according to the rules, he should be kicked out of the sacred True Dragon battlefield. Someone in the audience suggested. The competition in the sacred True Dragon gathering was cruel and there had been deaths before. The Sacred Alliance also valued geniuses. After all, the geniuses participating were prodigies and only 1 or 2 would appear out of billions of people. Therefore, the sacred True Dragon gathering had a rule that one couldn't purposely kill someone, especially when the opponent admitted defeat. An expert at the peak true mystic rank roared in anger, Sacred Alliance, this brat should be killed or at least disqualified according to the rules. Bullshit. How would we know he was this weak? He couldn't even take one move. How can this be considered purposely killing someone? According to the rules, killing someone before they admit defeat isn't against the rules. That brat didn't admit defeat. Taiyun Xuangzi's 2 heads spoke in a weird tone, cunning and fearless. Obviously. They had a thorough understanding of the rules of the competition. The instant Taiyun Xuangzi attacked, his powerful true spirit aura suppressed the opponent. The opponent was killed before they could even react. Putting aside those at the true human rank, most true mystic ranks would be instantly killed. This Taiyun Xuangzi is a newly ascended overwhelming prodigy and his cultivation has reached the late stages of the true human rank. He has 2 heads and 4 hands, and when he fights, it's like 2 true human rank teaming up. He's invincible against those under the true lord rank. Taiyun Xuangzi is indeed worthy of being Yu Tianhao's greatest opponent. More spectators and geniuses were stunned by Taiyun Xuangzi's terrifying strength. At this point in time, facing the protests of many people, the judge from the southern stage said emotionlessly, Taiyun Xuangzi, one warning. 1/10 of your dragon blessing will be taken away. After speaking, the judge waved the true dragon flag in his hand. Whoosh! Taiyun Shuangzi had lost a tenth of his dragon blessing and the true dragon token's glow dimmed a bit. The draconic providence was dispersed into the bodies of the geniuses of the southern region. Hehe, I gained some dragon luck out of the blue. Prince Jean revealed a smile and the silver light on his true dragon token became a bit brighter. Damn it! How could you do this? We didn't kill them on purpose. It's just that our opponents were too weak. The two heads of Taiyun Shuangzi gritted their teeth unwillingly. Sacred true dragon gathering rules, purposely killing and taking away the rules. If you kill someone unintentionally or lose control, you will be deprived of 1/10 of your genius dragon luck. The venerable judge was indifferent. The sacred true dragon gathering had a complete set of rules. Taiyun Shuangzi was an overwhelming prodigy and the Sacred Alliance's sentence was considered light. Boss, looks like we can't go on a killing spree. The second brother of Taiyun Shuangzi said. The sacred true dragon gathering doesn't forbid killing, but it doesn't forbid crippling. Taiyun Shuangzi licked his lips cunningly. Xin Wuheng stood in the crowd with a solemn expression. If these conjoined bodies specialize in combined attacks, then their battle power will probably double. Xin Wuheng, Prince Jean and company were sent to the southern region's arena with Taiyun Shuangzi. After this battle, the geniuses of the southern region's arena trembled and maintained their distance from Taiyun Shuangzi. Many people made up their minds that if their luck wasn't good and they met Taiyun Shuangzi, it would be best to admit defeat. Ancient Colosseum. The battle of the 5 regions proceeded in an orderly manner. Every battle was guided by the true dragon token and the two went up the stage to fight. The rules of the sacred true dragon gathering didn't look at how many battles you won but how much dragon blessing you had accumulated. Northern Region's Arena. After Goddess Bing Wei's victory, more geniuses went up to fight. According to previous years' experience, this process would last for almost 10 days. After all, there were several hundred geniuses in each domain. Zhao Feng sat cross-legged and closed his eyes, paying attention to the sacred true dragon gathering. The majority of his attention was focused on comprehension. With my current strength, the chances of me reaching the top 20 are minuscule. Zhao Feng didn't give up and used every second to increase his strength. In his mind, the Lightning Inheritance and Mystic Flower Treasured Bible continued to clash and the degree of fusion increased. The second level of the Ball of Ice Soul, Power of Ice Soul, had been comprehended by Zhao Feng and his progress in the ancient Tao of the Soul was steady. Apart from that, the Dark Eye Incomplete page allowed Zhao Feng's God's spiritual eye to widen his horizons and give him new ideas. After several months of comprehension, Zhao Feng's mental energy level was comparable to the true mystic rank. Within the dimension of his left eye, the faint blue freezing pond had reached a diameter of 1 yard and the ripples were more active than before. Zhao Feng felt that the mental energy source he could use had more than doubled and the power of the ice soul was stronger. At a certain moment, Zhao Feng opened his eyes and watched a battle. Although he was comprehending, he still paid attention to the outside world. It wasn't strange for the God's spiritual eye to multitask at this level. The northern stage. Bei Moi stood on the stage and took a deep breath. Dark blue ripples surged around his body, and rippling water snakes surrounded his body, attacking his opponent in a lifelike manner. Brat, give up. A man in a red robe snickered as balls of flames appeared in his palm and exploded on Bei Moi's body like a blooming red lotus. The red-robed man's cultivation had reached the early stages of the true human rank and was slightly higher than Bei Moi's. Although Bei Moi's dark water inheritance was strong, the geniuses of the sacred true dragon gathering all had stronger backgrounds than him. The red-robed man in front of him had a cultivation technique that countered his own. The latter's chi of true spirit was denser and his cultivation technique was profound, stronger than his. 30 moves later, Bei Moi was pushed back by the red-robed man. The stage was 10 miles wide and Bei Moi was able to hold on due to his defense. The Dark Water inheritance is nothing in the sacred true dragon gathering. Even my lightning inheritance can only be ranked in the middle. Luckily, I merged the essence of the mystic flower treasured Bible. Zhao Feng couldn't help but sigh. It wasn't that Bei Mua's Dark Water inheritance wasn't strong, but that the geniuses of the sacred true dragon gathering were all prodigies of the heavens. Compared to them, the cloud area was just a small village. Brat, if you don't admit defeat, it won't break the rules even if I kill you. The red-robed man took out a scarlet-red dragonwood sword, and with one slash, a flaming dragon light tore through the dark blue ripple around Bei Mua. Wah! Bei Mua spat out a mouthful of blood and was heavily injured as the red-robed man closed in. Dark water turning to ice. Bei Mua's eyes went red and the true dragon chi within his body started to burn and change. Hiss. Bei Mua's entire body was covered in a dark blue ripple. It turned from liquid to ice and cold air surged out. Using the dark water turning to ice skill, Bei Mua released a terrifying power. This was the strongest attack of the dark water inheritance. Shwa! The red-robed man was left with a bloody wound by the dark blue ice sword. The coldness corroded and solidified, and he cried out in alarm as he retreated. If it wasn't for the fact that I had taken the spirit burst pill and entered the true spirit realm, I wouldn't have been able to comprehend one of the two strongest laws of the dark water inheritance. Bei Mua took a deep breath and ice water surrounded him. Every attack was accompanied by an explosion of ice light. His fists seemed to contain layers of ice mountains and his battle power rose dramatically. 50 moves later. Shwa! Bei Mua's palm sent the red-robed man flying with the afterimage of an icy mountain. I won. Bei Mua wiped the blood from his mouth as his blood boiled. His expressionless face was filled with excitement and insanity. On the highest stage of the continent, Bei Mua didn't want to leave his name behind, he just wanted to shine. After winning, Bei Mua's true dragon token took a wisp of dragon blessing, and although it was still a blank piece of paper, it became brighter. It's hard to imagine that Bei Mua's strength can barely make it into the top 10. Zhao Feng nodded his head in his heart. Although it would be hard for Bei Mua to reach the top 300 with his strength, his background was perfect. Northern Stage. The battle was abnormally intense and round after round continued. Until a certain moment. Zhao Feng's true dragon token hummed and pointed towards the stage. It's my turn. Zhao Feng's heart was filled with excitement. Even with his calm personality, he couldn't help but be excited about the first battle. Shwa! Shwa! Zhao Feng turned into an afterimage and landed on the southern stage. The opponent was an azure-clothed youth with a firm gaze. He held a low-grade spiritual grade blade and his chi of true spirit was released. I can't lose the first battle. Gao Peng tightly gripped his blade as his blood boiled and his chi of true spirit flowed like a river. He stared at the blue-haired youth in front of him and thoughts flashed through his mind. Before I left, the elders of the strong country had high hopes for me. After 20 years of hard work, I've defeated many geniuses from the strong country to reach this step. If I lose the first battle to someone of the same cultivation, how can I face the geniuses I've defeated? Gao Peng's battle intent and true spirit aura had reached a peak. Not even 20 years of age and at the early stages of the true spirit realm. Zhao Feng silently stared at the youth in front of him. The latter's talent and potential were all top tier. Zhao Feng didn't underestimate the first battle. Blade of Lightning. A blade formed from lightning formed in Zhao Feng's palm. It was 1 yard long and the power of lightning was terrifying. Flying crane cloud-splitting blade. Battle intent surged in Gao Peng's eyes as he roared. His figure became as light as a crane as he merged with the blade and slashed through the air. The agile movement skill and the tyrannical blade of lightning were both strange and abrupt, yet perfectly fused together. The instant the blade was unleashed, the chi of true spirit surged like a flood and the blade radiated a blinding light that covered a radius of dozens of yards. Flying crane cleaving cloud saber, what a profound saber technique concept. Any opponent in the sacred true dragon gathering, even if they're of the same cultivation, has strength that can't be underestimated. Zhao Feng was shocked. Shua. Zhao Feng's body was instantly obliterated by the lightning-cleaving saber. You're tuning into the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.